And I put a lot of weight on men now. If there's something going on in your children, there's something going on in the marriage, men, look in the mirror first.
Right.
Because the moment that the Lord caused a situation for me to go to repentance, and I began to practice, not perfectly, having a kindness and gentleness, the fruits of love and the Spirit, pour upon your wife and your children, and creating an environment for them to thrive and grow in, you'll see a change. I will say this about worship, is that this sometimes bugs me, is the length of time. I mean, an 8-minute song, a 9-minute song with the chorus repeated, just simply to elicit an emotional response.
Thank you. Bingo!
I have a very hard time.
Yes.
It almost becomes manipulative. Like, don't try to manipulate me emotionally into a place where I don't even need this song. I mean, I can go into the closet upon my knees and get to a place that's far more healthier than some emotional response you're trying to draw out of me. And so when the DNA of the female and the DNA of the male come together, and it knits itself together with all its peptides, and you create this long strand of DNA before the cell divides.
Right.
The single cell still. The DNA is in place.
Yeah.
God has knitted them together in their mother's womb by using peptides, ADG, PT, to make the thing together and create this ladder. Right. And then it is finished, and then it divides, and then for some reason, God tells what each cell it is going to do inside of the person.
Yeah, but that's not God. That's all natural, unguided, evolution that does that.
And again, I know this has probably already been reiterated and hammered, but they make a very good point. You are VP of the nation right now, and you're preaching about what you're going to do when you have the authority to begin the process now, and you're not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you have whatever resources you have now, and how you manage them now is going to be how you handle greater resources.
Hello there. I'm so glad you decided to check out another episode of the only podcast that matters, the Why Can't We Talk About That podcast. I want to remind everyone that I am always looking for guests to be on the show, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Also, I would greatly appreciate your feedback, so please send me some to whycan'twetallkaboutthat@proton.me. Lastly, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever it is you are listening from. That would really help me out. Thanks. Now for today's discussion. My guest this week is David Young, a pastor at Calvary Chapel, Santa Maria, who has 3 ministries: his family, the church, and the one that pays the bills, working as a lieutenant at a state prison. Quite a few years back, our sons were in a band together, and currently, our daughters are best friends. But until recently, our friendship only existed within the realm of our children, so it was awesome for us to sit down and get to know each other better. Our discussion covers Rage Against the Machine, carbon dating, and lots of stuff in between. His views on prison reform and homelessness were something I had never heard before, and they still have me thinking. I had a lot of fun hanging out with David, and hopefully you will too. Enjoy the conversation. But yeah, we'll just hang out and talk and see where we go, man.
Sounds great.
All right.
Looking forward to it.
I usually like to start just like kind of like a nutshell version of who you are. Like, I know you, obviously our kids have been friends, Aiden and Caleb were friends, and now Addie and Rachel are like inseparable. Yes. I mean, those two are like, in fact, even in Bethany's phone, I don't know if Addie or Rachel told you that, but in Bethany's phone, for Rachel's phone, it says, what does it say? Something like other kid or it's something along those lines. I forgot exactly what the wording is, but it's something along those lines where, I mean, she's awesome. She comes over here and she feels at home, and it's like, well, we love that, of course. Yeah. And her and Addie are so close, and we love their friendship. So that's awesome. But
I love it too. I'm so thankful for that they have each other.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. So just kind of give me a nutshell version of just kind of like, did you grow up in this area? Like, what do you do for work? Like, that kind of thing.
My life in a nutshell.
Yeah, your life in a nutshell, and then we will obviously delve deeper into some of that stuff later on as we go, right?
Sure,
Like obviously when we get in the spiritual discussion, you can share more deeply about your testimony, how you came to the Lord and that kind of stuff.
Okay. I grew up as a brat.
Okay.
In the military.
Military brat.
Yeah,
Okay.
military brat. My dad was Air Force for 22 years.
Okay.
And he, oddly enough, I was born here at Vandenberg Air Force Base. And then we ventured around, spent a few years in Greece. He had a couple other deployments that he had to go to. So of all places, Atlanta, Georgia has felt more at home than anywhere. But I grew up down in San Bernardino, California. Okay. Because that's where my dad spent most of his station, down in Norton.
Okay. And he was Air Force?
Yeah, he was Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So grew up in San Bernardino, California, and I was in my teenage years. I was a lifeguard.
Oh wow!
Yes,
like at the beach or at a pool?
A pool.
A pool. Okay.
A pool. Yeah, a couple of summers at a lake, but for the most part, a pool.
You weren't like Baywatch, right?
No, I looked the part. That's all. I just looked the part, especially the slow motion part.
Right. Yeah. You're like Hasselhoff's got nothing on me, man.
Right. I had much better hair.
Yeah.
And so one of the summers, I saw this smoking hot girl, which ended up being my wife, strutting her stuff across the pool deck.
Man.
Yes.
Okay.
We had this similar social network, but I was blind to who she was until I say the Lord opened my eyes to her.
Okay.
So I pursued her aggressively.
Nice. And it paid off, it looks like.
It paid off, yes. She grew up in the church.
Okay.
She met me during a rebellious season in her life because I did not grow up in the church.
Okay.
The only experience with church was Roman Catholicism, a baptism here and a Christmas there.
Right.
And if you were to say Jesus to me at that time, it would have been some sort of historical figure that I knew nothing about.
Okay. Just a name that you've heard before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
During our courting and dating years, she decides that she wants to go back to church.
Okay.
And I don't want to really sound vulgar, but because I still wanted to kind of get in her pants, I went to church too.
Yeah.
And I went with her, and there was a time in college, I'm coming home, and I had to pull over to the side of the road and with tears give my life to the Lord.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how old were you at that?
20.
20, okay. Pretty young.
Yeah, pretty young.
Okay.
So 20 years old. I wish it was a light switch, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of years of compromise, but
we... when anybody tells me it is like a light switch, I don't believe them.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, because that's not the way Christianity works. It's not like, oh, boom, now I'm saved. Now everything's wonderful and I never stumble and everything's great. If anybody tells you that, it's like, come on, man. Just be real. You know? So...
Yep.
Wow.
I agree. Chuck Smith says it in a way in which there's a gap between salvation and Lord. The moment in which you believe, and then the moment that you make him the Lord of your life. And for me, that was about 11 years. For some, maybe in a foxhole over in Afghanistan, it might be really quick.
Right.
For me, it was...
So you from 20 to 31, you mean? That 11 years?
Yeah, about 30.
Okay.
Yeah, 30-ish.
Okay. And how old were you when you guys got married?
22.
Oh, so it's pretty soon after that then.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Okay.
Yeah, 22. I got married. She was 23. Like older girls.
Yeah. By a whole lot, obviously. Yeah,
yes, a whole lot. Yeah. Such maturity. I was so mature.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was working, after we got married, I was working several jobs because about 9 months later, she was pregnant. And I'm like, okay, I got to do something.
Yeah.
So I was a waiter at a Mexican restaurant, this gringo here. Yeah.
Woo, that's good benefits, though, man.
Right? Excellent benefits.
Dude, love the Mexican food, man. Yeah. That's my favorite.
I was a lifeguard for the school district, and then I was also I joined the Air National Guard somewhere in there.
Okay.
So I was,
and this is all still down in Southern California area? Okay.
All still down in Southern California.
Okay.
Spent about 8 years in the Air Force, doing whatever it is that I did. And I was working with someone that told me that I can get a job in the prison system. And so I had to challenge the LVN boards to do so because I was AirVac. Okay. We turned cargo aircrafts into flying hospitals and we treated the wounded en route. Oh, yeah, I loved it. It was an excellent career field.
Okay.
Loved it. And when I got out, Corinne and I were talking about me maybe going back in later after I got some schooling. But series of events.
But then you had kids and then you had more kids. And
yeah, there it is. So with that job, getting my LVN license, I went into the prison system, and I was a dual role. I was a medic and a cop. And I worked that way for about 2 years. And a federal receiver said, you know what, we need to change this, where we need to make changes to the medical field, and your officer role is getting in the way, so pick one. So I picked to become an officer because I didn't have to have a reduction in pay.
Okay.
Went back to school. I did 40 hours in 3 days, and I did 40 hours of school Monday through Thursday. I had a transfer packet to go to Loma Linda as a physician's assistant.
Okay.
And I also had a promotion opportunity at work. And so after many weeks of prayer and conversations and tears in the kitchen, Corinne just lovingly and graciously said, I have been a single mother while you've been doing this for the last couple of years. I can't imagine doing this through medical school.
Right.
And I said, okay. So I took the promotion and series of events. I'm now a lieutenant at the prison. I've been there for about 19 and a half years.
Oh, wow, dude.
Yeah.
And is that the one in Lompoc, or?
It's in San Luis Obispo, the California Men's Colony.
Oh, that one.
That one.
The one you pass, like it's on the right, like as you're driving through. It's not like in San Luis, right? It's like kind of on the outskirts.
Yeah, you would have to go past Cal Poly.
Yes.
As if you're going to Morro Bay. You'll see it on the right.
Morro Bay, that's the word I was looking for. Because whenever we go to Morro Bay, you pass it. And it's on the right. You're passing. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because we just went to Cal Poly for a concert a while back.
Yes.
And we remember, okay. Very cool. That's like, is that like maximum security out there? Or what is that?
Yeah, it's kind of, well, I guess it's not tough to explain. It's just we have 4 different levels in the state system, 1 through 4, 4 being the highest level of security. Usually that's determined upon the perimeter and how much gun coverage you have.
Okay.
But in reality, each inmate is classified by a number of points, and it determines where they go. Now, we are a level 1 through 3 institution, but we have many level 4s. Because we're really big in mental health and medical.
Okay.
So when those inmates need that sort of care, they come to us, and they just override their level 4 points.
Which kind of goes back to your background.
Yeah.
With medical and what'd you say, policing, or what'd you say?
Yeah, it was a dual role. It was medic and officer.
An officer, okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. So you get like a lot of gnarly stuff happen out there all the time, or?
Quite a bit, yes.
Okay.
And it goes in waves, depending upon the population, who arrives, who says that they're allowed to be there, if they're trying to run some sort of politics.
Okay.
And that is in the gang mentality. But because I work in a mental health area, it's not so much gang politics that occur. We have a lot of instability. So an inmate can become very unstable and therefore dangerous to staff because he's volatile to himself or to us. So a lot of physical abuse, a lot of violence.
Yeah, that's gotta be. See, and I've met people before that work in that kind of environment, and a lot of times they're kind of like you, that you seem very laid back, just very like, you just seem like a nice guy, and I think that somebody in that position, you would think it'd have to be like a jerk, like just a guy that's just like violent and ready to, but you deal with that stuff all the time, and you just it's got to be hard.
It's very hard, and I did the first 10 years of my career very poorly, and I did the last 11 years by the power of the Holy Spirit. Okay. let's just say that.
Nice.
Yeah. So if I'm thriving at all is because of my walk with God.
Okay.
And there, no disrespect to my coworkers, but there are a lot of jerks.
Right.
Yeah. There are a lot of people that cope with it with anger and hostility and hate and bitterness.
Right.
So it's hard.
It's not directly related, of course, because this is like more extreme because they're dealing with like serial killers and stuff. But like, have you seen the movie The Green Mile? So like you got like the Tom Hanks kind of character who's very relaxed, very, of course he's one of the higher ups, but then you got what was his name, Percy?
Yes.
The guy that was just flying off the rocker, he was just doing terrible things, and it's like, that's kind of more what I picture as somebody in that role. Yes. So like to see like more of a Tom Hanks type is kind of out of the ordinary, but it's not like I've ever been there. I've been in the one in Taft a few times to visit a friend, but it wasn't like I was in, you know what I mean? Like to really actually experience some of the stuff that's happening in there. I've been scared to death of any of that, of jail, prison, which I guess is a good thing. Yes. Because that's what keeps me out of there, But like I would I would not survive in a place like that. There's just no way. I'd probably hang myself or something. I'd be like, forget it. I can't do this, just because it seems so scary to me.
Yes.
The kind of people and the way that, I mean, I don't know, just sounds freaky. So at what point did you guys move up here? Did you already have kids?
For the job, we moved here in 2005.
Okay.
And so Caleb was, doing the math here, about 2 years old. Nathan would soon be on the way. He was born in 2006, and then Rachel in 2009.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the stage in which we were at. So you could imagine we moved away from all our family.
Yeah.
I was doing all those extra shifts and going to school. So honestly, Corinne was a single mom. I hate to say that because it shows that, it was just hard. Yeah. It was a hard season.
Yeah, that's rough. But now it's better now.
It is better now.
Yeah.
It took us almost breaking.
Oh, really?
I mean, those first 10 years of my walk with the compromise, with work, I mean, all the cocktail, it's never one thing, but a bunch of things, and me not doing well. I mean, Corinne, she's just at the end of it. I mean, she was done. She was probably looking for a way out.
Right, right.
Any way out.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. And we have since then had wonderful mentors and counselors, the church body that came around us and for us to help support us through that difficult season.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's huge.
Cloud Nine. I mean, we love each other very much.
Good, man.
Yeah, we're a good, healthy place and pouring into others.
And that's what I try to tell people that are in the midst of that is, even though it seems like there's no hope, like in a marriage or like we're done. There's no way this is going to work. And it's like, no, I know lots of people that were right where you are, and now they're in a place where they're like, this is the greatest marriage I've ever had, like, or I've ever the greatest stage of our marriage we've ever been in.
Yes,
it's like, there's always light at the end somewhere. You just have to get to it, even though it's really hard to get in there. So, yeah, awesome, man. All right, cool. Well, we're going to delve into a lot of that stuff probably later on as we get in.
Sure.
But I will start with some music discussion first. I know that you've said lots of times on like the Java and Jams, you get up and you always say, you've seen my family up here. They're very musical. I'm not at all. I don't, because I know Corinne sings, Caleb sings. I've seen Rachel sing. I don't know if I've ever seen Nathan sing, but.
No.
Okay. No. Okay. But I know I've seen Caleb plays guitar sometimes in the worship team now and all that. So very musical family.
Yes, very musical.
But more probably from Corinne's side than your side, I'm guessing.
Right. The only thing I might have done is, and I don't know, both positive and negative, is I have been fairly liberal in the introduction of music to my children.
Okay.
For the idea of creativity.
Okay.
And then I try to give counsel on how to filter out as the Holy Spirit leads, how to defend yourself spiritually both before and after listening sort of music.
So you're talking about like secular music that might not be wholesome in lyrical content and that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mean you kind of like you expose your kids to it, but then you teach them like how to deal with it kind of thing? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right. I think that when we introduce, music's so powerful, I don't have to tell you that. Oh my
gosh, yeah. Totally.
That we risk going onto a battlefield when involved with music.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that, the armor before going into that battle, is it necessary? A lot of people probably would argue, no, it's not necessary. But if my family has such a passion for music, I think it's important to prepare them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know if that is made clear in that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think I've talked with lots, obviously raising kids, you get into these discussions with parents all the time. We've kind of fallen more on the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like we don't allow our kids to listen to certain things. We're considered pretty strict by even a lot of Christian families. And they'll say, oh man, in fact, we even had another Christian family who's like, their kids would be over and be like, hey, so are they allowed to watch this movie? And they're like, if it's okay with you guys, then it's fine. You guys are like the standard. Like, we know that if it's okay with you, it's definitely not going to be over the top for us. And it's like, well, I mean, thank you, I think. But at the same time, it's kind of like, because everybody's different. Everybody has different things they don't want their kids exposed to and do. It's like, You know what I mean? So, I mean, some parents are like, no Harry Potter or no,
right.
you know, Star Wars or no, like they have certain things that they might say that. And then others are like, well, no profanity or no kissing scenes. Like, I mean, it could be anything. And
sure.
all parents are different, you know, and that's fine. We need to kind of adapt to our children, I think, and what's going to best bring them up, you know, so.
Absolutely. We also have to recognize that we answer to the Lord.
Yeah.
And so each parent, it's our responsibility.
Yes.
Each man,
that's some
it's
scary
responsibility
stuff,
of their
man.
home, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I've made a lot of mistakes concerning music and my children, and movies and my children, and I own it. You know, and not to take it lightly. I don't look forward to being held accountable to such things.
Right.
But
yeah.
And it comes at a risk. I mean, Caleb ended up starting to listen for a season to some dark stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was not healthy for him.
Right.
And had to walk with him through that. But, you know, he got through it. Praise God. So.
And now he knows, now it's no longer a forbidden apple.
Yes.
Like he knows what's over there and he doesn't want it.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of the good scenario out of that, to where you might have another scenario where like, oh, my kid got into that and he just never came back.
Yes.
And now he's got nothing to do with the Lord and he only listens to this stuff and he doesn't even listen to any Christian music at all. And, you know.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that he came out on the right side of that.
Me too.
So that's kind of a gamble in a sense, you know?
Yeah.
So as far as like your ability to create music, obviously you don't hold that with your family.
No.
You do write poetry.
I do.
Which I've heard, which can be turned into lyrics. You just have to have one of your kids make a song out of it or something.
Right?
You know, that's where you gotta go.
That's an excellent idea. That actually might keep me on pace with the
There you
poem.
go, man. Yeah. You could be the writer. You could be the writer that could be the performer. You know, you guys would be huge.
Yeah.
You know?
I think overall the family is definitely creative. I like to create. I like to draw, do poetry, and
oh, you draw too? You're artistic in that way?
yes. I mean, I'm average at all things, and I'm not a professional at anything. But I enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate it.
Nice, man. But what about like as far as like your appreciation of listening to music? Do you find that something you enjoy, or is it kind of like, take it or leave it, whatever?
No, I really do enjoy it. I was just talking to a couple people the other day about music, and something that's really clicked for me is that I used to be most guys and teenagers, maybe it's hormones, it was just really intense.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm really excited all the time, or angry all the time, and I don't know why. So I gravitated in my early years to music to meet that.
Okay.
But now I am elevated, I'm intense. Maybe it's because of work and busyness. So I'm not gravitating towards music to meet where I'm at. I need something to help bring me down. So what I used to listen to, which was maybe hard or fast or had a beat, is now like folk and relaxation, country, or worship music. I mean, these are the things that I really enjoy to bring me back to a place of peace.
And that's probably kind of comes with age too, right? I mean, like when we're younger, we're like you said, we're more energetic. We're more about the hard rock, the really heavy stuff, or just something that's really upbeat. And I'm kind of like you now. I mean, at least when I'm wanting to relax, there's times where I just want to be pumped up. You know, in fact, I even have a playlist on my phone called Pump Up Music.
Yes.
And it's just a mix of all these songs that are just like, if I'm doing yard work or I'm doing something, or don't want to listen to that when I'm driving on the freeway, because that's the times where I happen to glance down, 95, whoa, ease off the pedal. You know, it's like, so that's not the kind of music to listen to. But at the same time, if I'm listening to something like way too mellow when I'm driving, like on a car drive at night or something, that's not going to cut it either, right? Like my older two will tell you that when we take trips, even to like Disney or whatever, and we're coming back late at night, I would roll down the window. I mean, they're trying to sleep in the back, right? I would roll down the window so the wind's hitting me in the face and just crank like Enter Sandman by Metallica or something.
Yes.
And then of course they're trying to sleep, and Bethany's like, well, they're trying to sleep. I said, well, do you want me to be able to see and drive? Because I'm falling asleep, you know?
You want this turn now to be short term or long term?
Right, exactly. You know, you guys don't want to meet the Lord just yet, do you? I mean, so but I get it, man. So let's start early then. Like, what's your first earliest? What's the first time you remember thinking, man, that's just, I love that. That's great. Want some more of that?
Ooh, you've added something to that question that it makes it more difficult.
Oh, sorry.
So no, it's okay. So let me start off with the earliest memory, and then I'll go on to I want more of that, right? And so earliest memory was, I think, three different parts. I remember driving in the music and driving in the car with my mom, riding in the car with my mom, and she's listening to country.
Okay.
And for the first time, I'm like, what is this? Garth Brooks? And what are they crying about right now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Are they holding back tears?
Yeah, these people's lives are miserable, man. Does anything go right for them?
Right? Yeah. And then I'm riding in the car with my father, and he's got like Led Zeppelin, and Yes, and Cream, and you name it.
Yeah,
like he's got all the classics on. And I'm like, okay, this is my mom, this is my dad. What am I? And I'm looking at my peers, and I haven't really clicked into music even into like junior high age. And there was a neighbor that was a girl, and they're all dancing and singing and following the same sort of pattern from MTV or whatever of like Vanilla Ice.
Nice.
And I'm like, hold on. So we got music that invokes this dancing and all over the place, memorization. I got, and so where is it that I fit into all this? And I really appreciated all the different genres in that sense, because I was trying to find out I had so many questions about it while I was listening to it.
Right.
I'm like, why is this so good? What is so intriguing about
Which is interesting for the age. About how old were you then?
12.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 years old.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I went off the rails looking for a bunch of different music, and I found that no matter what music I was listening to, I found a song at least by every group that I discovered. And I just enjoyed something about them. And
interesting. So there was really no style of music you were flat out, I don't like.
No, I liked it all.
Okay.
I mean, I liked jazz. I liked the Miles Davis. I liked Metallica. I loved Led Zeppelin. All over the place. You name it.
Yeah.
I know that there were seasons in my life, like later, around 16, I listened to a lot of Beastie Boys.
Nice.
After the punk rock scene, when it was more hip hop.
Yeah.
And then. Not only that, Rage Against the Machine.
Nice.
A lot of Rage Against the Machine for at least a solid 6 months or so.
Which is that's probably the calming kind of music you were talking about. Rage Against the Machine. I mean, that's just so soothing.
Right. Yeah, I was so at ease.
See, Rage is one of those bands that I still, to this day, can pop on their first album and be like, okay, this just never dies.
Yeah.
This still hits like it did back in 92 or whatever when it came out.
Yeah.
Just epic, dude. I mean, the albums after that were like a couple good songs on there, here and there, but that first album, dude, no skippable tracks. Dude, it's so powerful.
Yes.
I mean, obviously very foul in some of the stuff, but dude, just the Tom Morello, his guitar work to me is so unique.
Yeah.
Compared to, I've never heard anybody sound like that. I don't know what he's doing because I'm not really a musician. I don't know what he's doing to make that sound.
Right.
But I've never heard anything like that before.
No.
Just like, dude.
You talk about the skill level of that guitar to be able to put different. I'm not musically inclined, so if I misuse a term, but to pair up harmonics all over the scales, it was just something revolutionary. And I probably only recently discovered some other individual that Caleb introduced me to, Polyphia, and that guy can rip on the guitar. I've never heard anyone do.
Okay, so it's unique in the way that you would know if you heard it and be like, okay, that's Polyphia? That's the name of the band?
Yeah, that's the name of the band. Polyphia. And they have heavy metal roots, but I would say, I don't even know if I've heard a song from them that has lyrics.
Oh, is it all instrumental?
It's instrumental.
Okay.
But the instrumental is just phenomenal.
Wow.
It's a whole nother level of
Now,
skill.
does Caleb try to learn how to play that? Does he try to?
No, he can.
He can play that?
Yeah, he can play it. Yeah.
Dang, man.
The guy's got skill.
Yeah, that's heavy, man. I mean, dude, I still remember when him and Aiden were coming over here and they had what was the name of their band? Unfinished?
Yes.
The name of their band, and they had some stuff here and there, and I think Caleb was just barely learning to play the guitar.
He was.
So the two of them, and so was Aiden, and they were just kind of in there doing vocals and singing and playing guitar, and they were, I think they wrote some stuff. I don't think they ever recorded anything during that. I know that Caleb is on Aiden's first album that came out. He's on one of the songs.
Oh, cool!
But have you ever heard it?
No, I don't think I have.
I'll have to show it to you.
Yeah.
It's more of a rap kind of song, which on Aiden's first album was way different because his first album was very acoustic guitar singing kind of stuff, and then there was that one song that he did with Caleb where they were. I think it was just Caleb did the rap part. That's what it was. Aiden was the singing and then Caleb did the rap. But then the second album was all rap. Like it was just hip hop big time. And then the third one was more like EDM or whatever you call it. But yeah, I'll have to show it to you. It was pretty cool.
I'd love to hear.
That was fun, man, when they used to, and they were serious, man. They were all about it.
Fuel to the fire, man. They're feeding off each other.
And it's so cool to hear that he's so much more advanced now and he's been practicing. And I mean, the extent that I've really only heard him play is when he plays with the worship team, which is, nothing really fancy. It's just kind of chords, whatever. But then when he does the Star Spangled Banner, at 4th of July, like at the Yamamoto's house, he'll pull out the little amp and just do it like Jimi Hendrix style. That's so awesome. So that's really cool, man. So that's earliest memories is kind of hearing that mix of all that stuff. Do you remember a time where you latched on to any particular genre, even if it was something first, then you moved on to other stuff? Like, do you remember like the first kind of music, like style that you were like, oh?
Yeah, definitely rap / hip hop.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
nice.
I think it was, I don't know, if I was looking in hindsight, not at the time, child's mind, but in hindsight, I would say, maybe it's because I was living in a culture that I did not fully understand. Okay. And so I got into it trying to seek understanding of this particular culture, but I loved it. I loved the beat. I loved the lyrics. I loved where it took you emotionally, even if it was to an unhealthy place.
Right, right, yeah.
But I mean, you're a teenager. You don't think about such things.
Now, so did that ever... So I grew up on that, too. That was where I started. That was the first genre I can really remember thinking, oh, this is like... And this was back in the 80s. I was young. I was probably like 9 or 10, and I'm listening to NWA and Too Short and all that kind of stuff, But it just... I loved it. I loved the sound of it, but... I found that it started to tweak my view of things. Like my view of women was very low. Oh, yes. Because I'm listening to them talk about them like they're nothing but objects, So I started to kind of adopt that, which is funny because I grew up here. It wasn't like I was growing up in the hood or anything. I mean, you know what I mean? So did you find any of that, or were you able to kind of separate it with just music to you?
Oh yeah, there was no separation. There was a sense of having to walk around with fake confidence on the streets, and belittling women, yes, objectifying women, absolutely. Right. It definitely affected me. Okay. For sure.
And that's what I think when people say, "Oh, music doesn't affect me. Music doesn't affect me." It's like you might not realize it's affecting you. It's funny because I've met Christians that will sit in the same breath. They'll talk about how watching movies and listening to music with profanity doesn't affect them at all. And then 5 minutes later talk about how they really struggle with using profanity. Oh, yes. And they just don't see the connection. And I'm like, I get the struggle. Like, you hit your hand with a hammer, you might let a word fly. I gotcha. But if this person is talking about like, no, I'm just like in normal conversation, words will just fall out. Well, if that's what you're filling your mind with on a 24/7 basis, what do you think's going to happen? You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what are some of the early rappers that you liked back in the day?
Ooh, early ones, huh?
And this is all pre-salvation. We put that out there. You know what I mean?
I always try to consider the source. Those who know me know that it's not the same.
Right. Right. Exactly.
If you don't know me out there, this isn't all of me in a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, but probably Tupac. Tupac was huge. I considered him a lyricist. He had piano. He had all sorts of different styles that he would integrate into his rap. Yes. I would say he was number one. I would fall back on. I would venture off to the West Coast every once in a while with Jay-Z. Okay. Later in years.
East Coast, you mean?
East Coast, yeah. No, you're right.
Okay.
East Coast.
Jay-Z, okay.
Outkast.
Nice.
I really enjoyed Outkast.
Nice, dude. Yeah. They were very unique, I think, when they came out. Like there wasn't a lot of rappers that sounded like that.
No, they had like some scratches going on in the background and quick paced. They paired up really well.
Right. Yeah. I still remember that. Was that what was the name of that first album? Southern something playalistic some.
I
think that was the first one.
I think you're right with the playalistic.
but I never got real deep into it. So like me, the East Coast, I mean, I know that they're more Southern, but like East Coast stuff like Jay-Z, I never really got into. I haven't heard a lot of it, to be fair. But like when I would hear it from other people, they would play it. Oh, listen to this. And then with East Coast stuff, it's always like, I don't connect with it as much with the sound as I do with West Coast. I don't know if that's just because I grew up here and that's what I've heard mostly. Right. But there's a couple like Nas I love. It's East Coast. I love him.
Great
some
lyricist.
Wu-Tang stuff is great. Some of that. But most of it, I would say like, nah. But when I was younger, it was like Run DMC, you know, like you said, Beastie Boys, loved all that kind of stuff. And that's all from over there too. But West Coast Tupac is, I mean, to me, I probably put Tupac and Eminem as the two greatest rappers of all time.
Oh, without a doubt.
Probably what, I mean, I couldn't tell you which one I put at the top of that list, but they're both number one. Like, they're just amazing to me.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever had the pleasure of hearing Tupac freestyle at all.
Right.
But the idea that Eminem can perform to the same level as Tupac, but also freestyle, like, I mean, lyricist.
That might give him the edge.
Yes.
That might put him over the top.
Might. It just might.
Yeah. So what? Tell me about when you first came in with Tupac. Like, at what era of Tupac were you, like, there from the beginning, like the Tupacalypse Now album, or even earlier, like when he was with Digital Underground doing?
Yeah. Honestly, I really couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been so long. I couldn't tell you the albums. I could tell you what the picture looked like. Okay. You know, like All Eyes on Me.
Oh, that's his best album, I think.
Yeah, I
think that double album that came out on Death Row. Yeah, that was epic.
So good.
That's such a good one. Yeah, I'm with you, man. That's the go-to.
Yeah, mostly pictures for me. The words are hard, even the names of the songs themselves.
Okay, yeah.
When they would come on, unfortunately, I'd probably be able to sing along with all of them.
Right.
But I couldn't tell you the name of the song.
Still to this day.
Yeah.
I probably could, yeah. But I was like, I know all the words to this, but I can't remember a conversation I had 2 days ago with somebody.
Yes.
That's the part about getting old. Like, I remember lyrics from, like, 8th grade. Haven't heard the song in however many years ago that was, and it's like, still know it by heart.
Yes.
Come on the radio, I can just rap the whole thing and, you know, sound awesome doing so, of course. You know, it's my amazing gift as a rapper. I sound like an idiot. My kids look at me like, Dad, what are you doing? Oh, man, this song is just awesome, you know? All right, so.
I remember hearing Changes with Tupac. It's not even in the top 10.
Okay.
But there was just the piano opens up. I'm like, what a song is this?
Yeah.
And it was great. It was a great song.
Yeah, and he was talking about, he was really smart. That's what I appreciated. You know, like some other rappers out there, you can just tell they're just very ignorant. They don't really, their lyrics are just
shallow. Yeah,
shallow and just ridiculous and dumb. And it's like, man, Tupac, I'm not saying I agreed with everything he had to say, but he was a smart person. Like, he really thought about stuff and put it on paper, you know, and wrote songs about stuff that was important, at least to him at the time, you know. He said, I'm with you on All Eyes on Me. That's probably the best. Yeah, because I came in probably with Digital Underground when he did the same song with Digital Underground. When he came in, he was on that one verse of that track, and then Tupacalypse Now with Brenda's Got a Baby was probably the first solo one I heard, and he just got better to me. Like, and then the next album had I Get Around.
Oh, yes.
That one, I saw the video for that one when I was young. I was like, yes, this is awesome.
This is a little Will Smith for me. But
yeah, right? A little more poppy. Yeah. But then he started getting deeper with, like, Dear Mama and, you know, some of the ones off of the next ones. And then, I think it culminated with All Eyes on Me. And, you know, I never really listened to a whole lot of stuff that came out after he passed. Even though he put out, like, almost more music after he died than he did when he was alive, you know. Yeah. But that Machiavelli CD, I think, was the official last one that he released. I think that was before he died, either right before, maybe they released it right after. But anyway, I think he just got better and better and better. And then Eminem, kind of to me, was like Marshall Mathers LP around there was the best. But so then how long would you say that you kind of stayed there, and what brought you into the next genre that you started liking out of that?
I think I would consider the scene, you know, whether or not I was going to a sport, if I was going to go play sports or go into the gym, or I just got tired of it, then I would come back to, Rage or Tool or just some sort of, get some electric and anger,
Right.
like how,
Yeah.
And
get your aggressions out.
Yeah, get the aggressions out.
Yeah.
And
did you ever go to any shows by those people?
no.
Okay. Get in the pit and really get some aggressions out.
No, but what was weird is of all the bands before Sublime came out.
Nice.
Yeah, they played at some wrestling arena there in San Bernardino.
And you saw them play?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
And it was more punk than it was hip hop.
Right.
Or whatever the
kind of ska. Well, see,
ska,
you can't really categorize
you
Sublime.
can't.
Every song on the album is different than the last one.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, and then that was my first mosh pit scene.
Okay.
And it was a lot of fun.
Nice, man.
Yeah, it was surprisingly. I don't know if it was something twisted. I enjoyed getting hit around.
Yeah. It's a guy thing, I think. I don't know what that is. It's aggression.
Like going around the street, I deserve this.
Yeah,
Some self-acting or something.
Right. Yeah. And it's it's interesting because I grew up, not grew up, but I mean probably from high school on, punk rock's been my favorite genre ever since then, and I've been to lots of punk shows and stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't ever go. I'm not a pit guy. I'm just not. But a lot of my friends go in there and stuff, and you don't generally see people really getting hurt in there. Because the point is not to hurt each other. The point is, somebody falls down, they pick him right up, they help him out. It's not like he's going to get trampled or anything. Every once in a while, there's a jerk who just shows up, but they usually take care of that guy pretty quick.
Yeah.
They usually get band together and get him out of there, or whatever they got to do, either get him out on their own or get security involved or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, but yeah, I was never really a pit guy. I was kind of, ironically, is that the right word? Kind of thrown into one without meaning to, just because I was wanting to be closer to the stage when we saw Pearl Jam play in Golden Gate, and Bad Religion opened up for him, and that was when I first got into punk. And during Bad Religion's show, we were up there, and I kind of got pushed into the not really in the pit, but we were getting beat up pretty good just by being around the pit. And just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I was like, this is not what I came here to do. I mean, I was only like 15 at the time or so. I mean, I was still young, but yeah. So, where are we going with that?
Well, I think that when we were trying to venture on to see like where I would be going as far as music and where the transition was, if any. And I think that, like I said, with a Tupac or rap or bands like Rage Against the Machine, these are the ones I came back to. But I was always listening to other genres, and I was always venturing off, especially in my quiet time, listening to music or while I was driving. I enjoyed bands like Pearl Jam. I enjoyed bands like, even R.E.M. at times.
Oh, dude, I love R.E.M.
Oh, yeah. What is it about? What is it about that?
That band hits me in such a way that I don't even know how to describe it.
Okay.
There's certain songs that they just hit me. Like, I don't know how to, I've tried to explain this lots of times. I fail miserably every time because it's more of a feeling.
Yes.
How do you describe a feeling? But it's like, in fact, I have a playlist on my phone also called Feels.
Yes.
And these are all songs that just do that. And they just hit me in a way that just makes me feel a certain thing. And there's so many songs by R.E.M. that do that. From earliest even to some of the stuff they put out before they broke up and all that. But just certain, the song, there's a song called Camera that does that to me. What's the name of that? South Central Rain, it does it to me. And even some of their pop, Losing My Religion. Oh my gosh! I mean, I don't care who you are. That's a
great
fantastically song. Written song.
Yeah,
just
so good.
Beautiful song. Man on the Moon.
Yeah,
fantastic. Just gets me every time. That album, the Automatic for the People album, is my favorite one. And there's a song on there called "Try Not to Breathe." Have you heard that song? It's phenomenal.
Okay, Try Not to Breathe.
Try Not to Breathe. But it's not Automatic for the People.
Now.
Yeah.
I'm going to take notes.
Automatic for the People. The whole album's great. That's the one with Everybody Hurts on it, and that's a popular single.
Yeah.
It's got Man on the Moon on there, Night Swimming, Drive is on there. But Try Not to Breathe is like, it just... And again, you said, well, what is it? I don't know. Is it the lyrics? No, because I don't know what they mean. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
It's not even that. It's just something about it, So, anyway...
I think the music in our young years and why we still remember the lyrics to this day is because somehow I think the hormones and the way our brain system is developing, emotion gets tied to these lyrics, these songs, and that's what makes them stick.
Right.
Yeah. And we just don't have that emotional response as adults so much anymore to the songs.
Well, and it's rare, right? Like it's rare for me to find a new group or a new singer or a new that does that to me. It still happens, but it's not as often. Like I find myself going back to the 90s or that's where it's happening for me, and I still listen to that stuff. It's like, oh, this is great.
I'm going to be really vulnerable right now.
Yeah,
and
go for
I'm
it.
not going to, please don't judge me.
I'm excited now.
Yeah. And if this is a song that people enjoy, and I don't mean to make it, I don't know, belittle it.
Yeah.
But
it's your opinion. Right?
when I was born again, and like when I was saved at age 20, shortly thereafter, Creed came out with Arms Wide Open.
Yeah.
And I understand they're not Christian, right?
Well, they're one of those bands that was and then wasn't and then was and wasn't. Like Scott Stapp claimed to be a believer. Okay. Right? And I guess he grew up in the church, so that's kind of where that came. Their first album had a lot of Christian themes in their lyrics, but then you get later on down the road and he gets busted with Kid Rock for a bunch of groupies having sex with him on camera or something. Okay. It's like, okay, well, what's happening here? Right? So yeah, he definitely professed. Yes. Is he really saved? I have no idea. That's not for me to know. It's between him and the Lord, but...
Well,
but anyway,
that song made me weep.
Yes,
several times because of my recent salvation. Yeah. I just wanted to reach out to God at that time.
And I will not judge you on that. It's a great song. I still like that song. In fact, it just came on my shuffle just yesterday.
All right. Good.
Yeah, and I was rocking it. I was like, oh, this is good stuff, man. My cousin, that song hit him hard because he had found out that he was going to have a baby. Like he found out it's not he was going to have a baby. Men can't have babies. I do hold that position.
That comes later.
Yeah, that's in the political section. Yeah. But he had found out that his wife was pregnant, and it was just like, it was the song. I just heard the news today. Seems my life is going to change. Yeah, so no judgment from me, dude.
Great. All right.
I mean, the listeners might judge you, but that's okay. They'll just send me a nasty email.
I just think of all the bands I listen to. I'm like, really? You're going to mention Creed in there?
Yeah. I mean,
it's good.
Yeah, not the best band of all time or anything, but they had a place.
Yes, they did.
In a time,
they had a place. 90s. We could stay right there.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I've said multiple times, 90s to me is the best music of all time.
I agree.
It's hands down, dude.
Hands down.
I mean, you can't go any farther than that. How old are you?
I'm 44.
Okay, so we're close. I'm 46. Yeah. So we're almost the same age. So so that 90s is kind of that really important time in our lives.
Huge.
It's just, and the music is the soundtrack to that. It's just beautiful.
And we have the best soundtrack.
We do have the best soundtrack. Although somebody who grew up in like 60s or 70s would say that era, kids now would say, oh no, look, 2010s is the best music. What are you talking about?
We had variety.
We did.
Yes.
We did have variety. Although when I was younger, it was very cliquey. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't have a whole lot of... Now these days when you ask a kid, hey, what's your favorite genre of music? They say everything.
Oh,
usually,
yes.
Right? Back then, it wasn't like that.
No.
When I was in high school, you had the cowboys who only listened to country. You had the hip-hop guys who only listened to rap. You had the ramp rats, metalheads who only listened to, Megadeth and Metallica and Slayer and all that stuff. And then you had the punk rockers. And, it was more cliquey. It's like to where now you can see a guy with a mohawk and Celine Dion's his favorite singer or something.
Right.
It's just it's totally different now. So it's just not as cliquey, but so I keep getting sidetracked to where I think I keep sidetracking us on where we're going here. So you've gone through the gamut of different musical genres, obviously. Yes. Have you landed on anyone as of today, or do you feel like you still kind of feel like all of them are
today? Today is a toss-up between two now. Okay. It's folk / country, depending on how far I want to sway off that spectrum.
Right.
And then worship.
Okay.
Those two. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I would listen to stuff that kind of brings me down now.
Okay.
And relaxes me and
right.
calms me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give me some examples. Well, first we'll go with the folk country. Give me some examples of some artists that you like in that area.
I guess recent one in folk is Oliver Anthony.
Never heard of him.
Oh yeah.
Love it.
That's
how I learn new stuff, man.
Yeah, I think what we appreciate, not to go backwards, but with Tupac compared to other artists, right, is I think Tupac was vulnerable. He was real. He talked about himself. He didn't talk necessarily just about shallow things.
Right.
Oliver Anthony is just in the same boat. He professes to be Christian. Each of his songs are separated by Bible verses.
Okay.
And he talks about politics, his heart, difficulty growing up.
He's not the guy who did the song that went viral.
I think so.
The Rich Man in Richmond. Okay, I know that song.
Yes, that guy.
Okay, so you've heard more of his music?
Yeah, the whole album I can listen to.
Oh, I didn't even know he had an album.
Yes. Yeah.
So cool. I thought he was just like an overnight sensation. He had the one song, and I haven't heard anybody talk about him since.
Right.
He was huge for like 2 weeks, and then that was it,
It can. I mean, the album can seem redundant. It's definitely in its own little box, but it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'm gonna have to check it out then, because I liked that song. That was a great song. It was very vulnerable.
Yes,
very raw. I felt like it was very hillbilly out in the woods, just writing about his life, kind of how I feel, kind of stuff. And that's what music should be, man.
I think so.
Just people just pouring their hearts out into a song, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check him out then. So he's got one album
that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah, that I know of.
Okay, so is there any others in that area?
Let's see. As far as folk, not Christian.
Okay.
But Nathaniel Ratcliffe.
No. He's folksy or more country?
More folksy, big band.
Okay.
Kind of deal.
Okay. I've never heard of him.
St. Paul and the Broken Bones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these are songs by, what was his name again?
Okay, so St. Paul and the Broken Bones is a...
that's a group.
That's a group.
Oh, okay.
Minotaur, Call Me, All I Ever Wonder.
Okay.
These are some of the top 3 that just are listed, but All I Ever Wonder is good.
Okay.
Again, they are not listed as Christians, so enter at your own risk.
Right.
Nathaniel Ratcliffe is a Survivor.
Okay.
I Need Never Get Old.
Yeah.
Is another good song.
Okay.
But those are one. That's the type of song. Chris Stapleton is huge. I really like to come back.
See,
to.
I've heard of him, and he's
him.
been featured in a couple songs I've heard, but I don't know if I've ever heard any of his actual stuff. I feel like he was in a Taylor Swift song or something. Maybe that was him. I can't remember. But
that's when I allow myself to go into the secular spectrum, which is. Yeah, I enjoy every once in a while.
Yeah.
Josh Garrels is huge that I really love on the Christian spectrum. Like
love Josh
come
Garrels.
Back to him and listen to him.
He's another one. He's got a lot of songs on my Feels playlist.
Oh, okay.
Oh, big time, dude.
Yeah.
That guy is so amazingly talented, and he just goes all over the place with his genres. It's amazing to me. Like he'll do hip hop song, he'll do a full on like bluegrassy song, he'll do ones where he's got real like guttural kind of like deep like vocals, and it's like, dude, this guy is amazing.
Yes.
You know, and then you watch him. I've never seen him actually live, but I watched videos of him live. He's like this. What is he, like 6'7", or he's this huge guy?
Yes.
Tall, lanky dude, and it's just like...
Oh, I didn't realize he was that tall.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how tall he is,
all right, yeah.
but he's really tall.
Yes.
I mean, I might be exaggerating. I don't think I've ever actually looked it up.
All right.
But I might need to be fact checked on that. But but he's just so tall.
Yeah.
But he has a song. Oh boy, again, so you messed it up. But it's off the Chrysalis album, I believe. Chrysalis? Chrysanthemum? But it's a
yes.
I forgot the name of the song.
Yeah, I recognize it, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'm not helping you at all.
As long as you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
If I can bust out a terrible singing version like that, and you're like, oh yeah, man, I know what song that is. But that's one of my favorites.
And then sticking in the Josh spectrum, Josh Baldwin, I like listening to him.
Never heard of him.
For worship music. Yeah, he did a recent one that's really popular, Made for More.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. And I've tried to supplant, as you transition, putting off the old man, putting on the new.
Right.
You try to find these artists that are similar to what you grew up with, right? Mm-hmm. And so I really love NF because I really loved Eminem.
Yes.
But I love NF more.
Right.
Right. And that's hard to say.
Yeah.
Because I picture Christian music sometimes as this like wannabe section of, but to get an artist that really nails it and does so good.
Yeah.
So,
and he's not, I mean, I know he is a Christian, and he's not afraid to say that, but it's not like his lyrics are like overtly like evangelical or anything, right? Like he'll mention God here and there, but it's not, I don't think his motive is to preach Christianity through his music, but it's clean.
Yes,
which is nice, right? As instead of like Eminem or whatever. But yeah, so good, dude. We actually got to see him live.
Oh wow!
He was on the Search tour, and we saw him in Portland.
Okay.
Me and Aiden got to go.
Oh, cool!
And because NF is like Aiden's. In fact, I think that's him and Caleb. They shared that together. I think that was one of the. They both enjoyed that at the time.
Yes.
And they were. But yeah, he got to go see him. That's like one of his idols, and he's a great dude. I think the Search album is my favorite. I don't know.
Oh no, it's really good. I would say Yeah, I would say that's definitely
Okay.
number one. Yeah.
Okay,
for
you
sure.
put it up there too.
Yes.
It's a Mansion holds a special place with me just because that was the first one I ever heard, and you know, I remember hearing what's that song that was on the radio? That oh, these hands are tired, and I'll keep on. That's what it is. I'll keep on.
Oh yes, I'll keep on. Yes,
I'll
yes,
keep
yes.
on. Yeah, so that's a good one, and that was the first song we ever heard. And then we were at the Christian bookstore in San Luis at the Parable, and they had it there for like $4.99.
Oh wow.
For the whole album.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that song was pretty cool. We heard on the radio. Let's check this out. And I remember me and Aiden put it in. We're like, oh my gosh, like that song we heard on the radio is like one of the worst songs on here.
Yes.
Right? Like it's a great song, but compared to some of the other ones, like, man, this guy's deep, dude. He's like, and he's flowing, and he's like, oh man, dang. But then by the time that when I first heard the song The Search, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing of all time.
So good.
So good. How about did you hear Story? And did you see the video for that? The
No.
one where the girl goes into the store.
No.
And it gets oh my gosh,
I'm
you
gonna write
have
down
to watch the video,
Story.
dude. It will mess you up, dude, in a good way.
Yeah.
It's good, dude.
I really enjoyed what he did with all his videos for Search, with the balloon theme, the same tone, and the narrative almost.
And the Joker smile So when we saw him live, he had that.
Oh, whoa.
So he had like a black curtain, like almost see through, like a sheet. You can see through it, but barely. Mm-hmm. And as the show started, you heard the shopping cart. Right, that little squeak of the wheels, like in the beginning of the song. Yeah, dude. And then he started the song. He started rapping the song, and the sheet was still there.
Wow!
All the way up into Where the Beat Go. You know that part where he's like, where the beat go, and it stops. Oh, I hate that. Hey, drums came in. You see that coming?
Right.
You know? So that's when the sheet dropped. And dude, it was epic. And it was cool. And he had the black smiley face on. And dude, so good.
All right.
So good.
And I need to go find a live performance.
Yeah. Yeah. He does not look comfortable live, though. I'll tell you that.
Oh, he doesn't?
He does not look like he wants to be there.
Oh.
He's not real interactive with the crowd, at least when we saw him.
Okay.
Not real interactive. He seems like a pretty reserved person.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like he's probably more comfortable in the studio writing stuff and recording stuff than being in front of an audience.
Then do that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just keep it up, man, because it's, I mean, everything you put out is great. Yeah. Wow, man. That's really cool. So worship music, this is where this is one of those things that I kind of struggle with worship music. Mm-hmm. I mean, and when I say that, I don't mean I don't love songs that glorify God and all that. I love it. I think it's great. But I struggle with some of the new modern kind of worship music. It doesn't really seem to be doing that. It seems to be more about the person who's receiving from that. Like the lyrics are more about the person who's singing, not the artist, but more like us as we're singing a worship song in church.
Right.
It's more about like, oh, everything's wonderful. Thank you, because this is making me so happy. And to where it's not so much like just like this bowing down and worshiping the Lord for who he is. You know what I mean? So I love a lot of the old hymns and that kind of stuff for that reason. But
and I think that's where we kind of do a disservice because of the genres that we had in hip hop and rap. There's this divergence, right? And I think that worship needs another label. You know what? We need something like redemptive music. I don't know, something like that, where it can be about us.
Right.
If we enjoy the artists that are vulnerable and pouring their heart out about what's going on in their mind and their heart, then we should have music and artists that do the same thing about what God's doing in their life.
Right.
But let's not call it worship music.
Right. Yeah.
Because what are we worshiping?
Correct.
You know, the fruit of it, or are we worshiping the source of it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah. I think that's good.
Okay.
No, I was just kind of like, I was gonna think about something else, and I was like, should I go there? And I'm no, but yeah, I think
by all means, I'd love to hear what's on your mind.
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, I do agree with what you're saying.
Yes,
but then I also wonder, like, the Bible says, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? Yes. So I think that's where that comes into play. Like and I think that's true whether you're a believer or not a believer. I mean, I think even an atheist, whatever they're doing in their life, whatever they're saying, the things that they're believing and the things they're talking about, or if they're a singer, if they're a secular singer, that's what's going to come out of their mouth. So when I hear some of these quote unquote worship singers, honestly, I mean, I know it's not my place, and I'm not saying I know for sure or anything, but sometimes I wonder, like, are they actually like believers? Like, are they actually saved? Or because it seems to be what's overflowing out of their mouth is not the biblical Jesus I know, or that I read about in Scripture, you know. And sometimes there's certain songs where I just don't sing them. Okay. I can't sing them because it's like I don't feel like this is right, you know, to be singing this. And there's just certain things. As an example, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So something like something along the lines of like, and this isn't a big deal. This is just like a minor example, but like when we have a worship song where we're basically asking the Lord to show up, or we're inviting Him to come. Mm-hmm. And I think to myself, now assuming that at least the majority of the people in this building are saved, we're all indwelt by the Lord.
Yes,
He's already here. Right. Like, why are we what are we asking Him to do? Right. Like, oh, just, you know, come and do whatever. It's like, no, He's here already. Like, we should just be worshiping Him. Like, I don't know if we should be asking Him necessary for anything. We should just be praising Him for how awesome He is and how amazing, you know, He is in our own lives and what He's done. Like, that's why I love the kind of songs that are more geared towards that old rugged cross, like some of those old hymns, or oh man, I always forget my favorite hymn of all time, and I always forget the name of it. It's an Irish hymn. I love it already, and I forgot. I know you know it. It's very popular. Sure, but don't ask me to name it. Yeah, but you'd know it. I know one of my favorite versions is by Bethany Dillon. I don't know if you know who Bethany Dillon is. She hasn't been around in a while, but she was a really young kind of singer-songwriter back in the probably early 2000s. I don't remember the name of it. I'll let you know later. But anyway, so I mean, that's kind of where I struggle. I mean, do you ever struggle with any of that, or do you? I do. Okay. I don't know if it distracts me as much as it distracts you. You know, I try to find if this is what the person is pouring out. Yeah. I would just simply search for that which I agree with. Okay. And not necessarily what I disagree would stand out. Okay. Yeah. Chew up the meat, spit out the bones kind of thing? Kind of thing, yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. And if it was that bad, then I could, I don't know, within my own heart, just continue to worship with the music in the background. But okay. Yeah. Do you have an example of any specific like worship songs that really minister to you, or that you really... Lord, I Need You. Okay. Every Hour I Need You. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that was one that was in a difficult season of my life, and so I've always latched onto. And actually, it would be hard for me to hear it today, just because it was, in the negative context, it was what I needed at the time. And now I'm in a healthy place. I don't really want to go back to that mindset of like. But it takes you back, right? Isn't that weird? It's just music can do that. It does, and it was a good song at the time. But again, very selfish. It wasn't a worship song. It was just simply a very selfish song about what I want. Yeah. But it brings up a good point. It's you don't just need the Lord on Sunday mornings. Yes. Right? Like a lot of people on the outside might think, you know, Christians, they just go to church on Sunday and maybe Wednesday night if their church is really, really cool. Right. You know, and the rest of the time they're just living it up or doing whatever. It's like, no, that's not the Christian life. It's 24/7. Ups and downs, you know, happy, sad, whatever. Like, you got the Lord with you all through that, you know? Yeah. So that's a truth that's hard to swallow. Not swallow. That's a truth that's hard to keep on the forefront of your mind. That during that season, I'm saying, Lord, I need you, without really, in a sense of maturity, understanding that the Lord is already walking with me. He's here. Right. Like you said, He indwells within me. Yes. And my spirit is crying out to His spirit, even though I'm distracted by whatever I'm distracted by. Right. He intercedes on my behalf because I'm not talking right. I'm not thinking right. And thank God He's there, because I wouldn't even know how to converse before the throne in that state of mind that I'm in. Yeah. But, yeah. And that's the beauty of that, too. Just that your heart can be doing something that your mind isn't even aware of. Right. Like, you can be so distracted mentally, yet the Lord is working in your heart. You know? Yeah, you can be worshiping without even realizing it. It's so awesome. Yeah, we ask our children to run off and do things without realizing that we got their back. Right.
And
right.
Yeah. I run off sometimes, and the Lord's got my back.
Again, if you said you never ran off, I wouldn't believe you. I just wouldn't believe you. Yeah. Because it's just not true. I mean, that's one of my pet peeves is like, just be real, man. I'm not saying somebody has to tell me all their deep, dark secrets, but at the same time, don't like try to pretend like, Christians are always smiling and there's never anything wrong. It's like the non-believing world sees right through that.
Yes.
They don't buy your phoniness. They say like, I don't want to be like that weirdo. Right. It's like, just be real. Be like, look, yes, I go through the same ups and downs as you do, except I have the Lord with me through it and a non-believer doesn't. That's what I would tell them. But it doesn't mean I don't go through hard times or I don't struggle or there's times where I don't want to smile. There's times I don't want to go to church.
Yes.
Lots of times I don't want to go to church.
Yep.
I didn't really want to go this morning.
I get it.
But I did. Yeah. I was glad I did. That speaker we had was pretty cool. He had some good stuff to say.
So good.
So, yeah. But, yeah.
I will say this about worship music that sometimes bugs me is the length of time. I mean, an 8-minute song, a 9-minute song with the chorus repeated just simply to elicit an emotional response.
Thank you. Bingo!
I have a very hard time.
Yes.
It almost becomes manipulative. Like, don't try to manipulate me emotionally into a place where I don't even need this song. I mean, I can go into the closet upon my knees and get to a place that's far more healthier than some emotional response you're trying to draw out of me.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah,
That's hard for me.
I'm right there with you. I'm glad you said that because I feel the same way. And I feel like it almost becomes like, and the Bible somewhere talks about, is it incessant chanting? I forgot the exact wording, but sometimes I feel like that in some of these worship songs.
Okay,
it's like, how many times do we need to say the same thing over and over and over and over and over for like 7 or 8 minutes? Like you said, it's this long thing. And I kind of go in the same place you just went, where it's like, what are they trying to do here? But that may or may not be true depending on who the worship team is or whatever, Yeah. But it's kind of unnerving, or like when there's a like a prayer time or whatever, it's after the sermon and maybe it's kind of not an altar call necessarily, but it's kind of like the time where they're like, if anybody has any prayer, anybody, just whatever. And there's always like the little guitar in the background, just kind of setting the mood.
Yes.
Like, what is that supposed to do? Like, what are you doing? Like, and I know what it's doing because if you watch a movie, like you think of the saddest movie you've ever seen, right?
Yes.
And you go to the saddest scene in that movie, and then you watch it and it makes you weepy, it hits you in the feels or whatever. And then if you were able to go back and remove the music from that scene, you're like, this isn't even sad.
You're right.
This isn't even sad. Like it's amazing how much the music in that scene is what's hitting your emotions. It's influencing your emotions.
Right.
So then I always think like, what are you guys doing in the church service there? What are you doing with that little guitar back there?
Yeah. And if I was a congregant without being in the social circle of being in the eldership, I would probably think along the same lines. But I know in our particular church, because we go to the same church together, I know that's never the intent. That's not even the thought process.
Yeah.
It's, I think, just to do all things excellently is just to create a atmosphere of peace so that people feel, an oasis outside.
Right.
And that it's a safe place to, come before the Lord.
Yeah. And I don't always go to the malicious side and think, I think that they're definitely trying to manipulate people and all that.
No.
They might be, but I think more often than not with stuff like that, again, like even with the guitar in the background during the prayer time, all that, a lot of that is just learned experience. Like you grow up going to a church or you went to certain churches and that's just what they do. It's what they all do. It's like, okay, well now I'm a worship leader, but I've grown up watching all these other worship leaders. Well, there can't be just dead silence during the prayer time.
Right. I
got to play a little ditty here on the little nice little relaxing, piano song or something, and it's just, I think more often than not, they're not necessarily going, all right, I'm going to manipulate these people. I'm going to get their emotions flowing so we can just get them to worship the way we want to or what. I don't think that's ever a conscious thing. I mean, I shouldn't say ever. I'm sure there are some
maybe out there somewhere
dirt balls out there that do act like that. But
I wonder how much it kind of attunes our thoughts though too. What if it was silence in between the pastor praying?
Oof.
Where would my thoughts go if I didn't have a melody to hold on to
That's a
to
good
stay
point.
grounded?
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
my thoughts would go all over the place.
I know mine would.
You know,
that's why I probably bring it up.
Except now my thoughts go to, why is he playing that little song? What's he trying to play at my emotions? What is he doing? Oh man. Whew. But yeah, I try, man. I find, I don't know, I'm kind of in a weird place for the last couple of years. And we'll get more into this in the spiritual discussion, of course, but like we started at Calvary. I got saved when I was 24, and we started at Calvary through interesting circumstances that brought us there to begin with. But we were there for about 5 years in the very beginnings of our Christian walk, and then we left, went to another church for like 12 years. Then we left there and went to another church for another 5 years, and now we're back at Calvary again. And I know this is probably me just because I deal with this all of my life. I'm at the point now where my youngest child is 15. They're going to be, 14, sorry, going on 15. They're all going to be adults soon. My older daughter's married. It's just like, it's this time of life where I tend to think about the past, and I tend to live there sometimes and wish that things were the way they were. Oh, I missed this, or I missed that, or, I just sent Addie went to a homecoming dance with a friend, a girl that's a friend that's a girl, mind you. Oh, okay. Because it was like one of those, oh, I can bring a +1. Let's go as friends. Let's hang out. But it was like, but anyway, just sitting, she picks out a dress and she has to show it to me because I have to approve it. And I'm going, can you just be 5 again?
Right.
I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, you're like a little woman now, and you're 16 going on 17. It's only a couple more years for all I know. Like, it's just nuts. So I find myself dwelling on the past and wishing for the old times. So then I kind of find myself doing that at church. That's all that to say. That's what I was getting to.
Yes,
I know. I do that sometimes. I go all over the place.
No, it's good though.
But it's like that. That's what I'm sitting in there sometimes, and it's nothing against the worship team. It's nothing against any of that. I think they're fantastic. I mean, they're great. They're awesome. They're as people and as musicians, the whole deal. But I sit there thinking, this is just not what I remember. This is not the way it was 20 years ago when we went here. What happened to this? How come it's not like this? Like what, and I think it's less about it being worse now than it was, and it's more about me just living back in the past and wishing things were the way they were.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It just kind of, I hate that I do that. It just kind of sucks because I mean, living in the past is not healthy, I don't think. No.
No, but it, well, way off topic.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something healthy when, again, off topic. Remember the wife of your youth.
Yes.
There's something good about remembering the times in your early salvation, remembering the emotional responses, remembering what you enjoy. And yes, you're in a different season with different music, different whatever.
Different everything.
Yeah, different everything. But it is for its purpose right now. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can rest in that,
You can.
I mean, if you want to get like biblical, I guess, if you want to like believe what the Bible says.
Just trying to encourage you, brother.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, and you're obviously right. You're totally right. But yeah, it's just one of those things where you're like, it's harder for me. Like Beth and I talk about this all the time, and she's not like that. She'd rather almost not run from is the wrong word, but she doesn't like to think about like even like pre-salvation days or anything. Like at the times when we first met each other. I mean, I was 18, she was 15. Neither one of us were believers. But I'm the guy that'll pick up my 8th grade yearbook and just look through it and be like, oh, remember that guy? Oh, we did this. Oh, babe, listen to this. One time we went over here and we were doing it. To me, that's a blast, But it's like it's probably not healthy, necessarily. I mean, I guess if I stay there too long, but yeah, you're right. We did get pretty off topic there, so
it's good.
But there's no topics, man. We are just free flowing. We're just trucking along here. So we got through. Yeah, I think we covered that worship music pretty well. Any other musical musicians? Anything that you want to maybe hit one that we both know?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go back to Josh Garrels.
Okay.
How did you get introduced to Josh Garrels?
Through Corinne. So musical things are introduced to me through my family or friends.
Because she's very musical.
Yeah, I think I just don't have the time to venture out.
Okay.
You know, I just, when I do have time, it's not me going down rabbit trails like I used to try to discover something wonderful and great. So I hear about these artists from other people and I check them out and I do get attached at times.
Okay.
So they'll tell me which ones that are, good.
Okay. Very cool, man.
Yeah.
I got introduced. I was part of a thing called Noise Trade. Are you familiar with Noise Trade?
No.
It's like I believe, I'm probably gonna get this wrong. I believe it's like a online music sharing, not like Napster or anything. Like you're not buying. It's more like artists can go on here and basically share their music for free.
Oh yeah.
To a vast audience. So it's usually more for people that are like, nobody knows who I am other than locally. Like I have a big local following, but I live in, whatever, Butt Crack, Indiana, and nobody knows me anywhere else.
Right.
So they're able to spread through the internet this stuff. And I was part of that emailing list, and I got an email one day that says, new music from Josh Garrels. And I think it was a live recording, actually, is what it was. So they gave me the album for free, digitally, MP3s. And I remember putting it on and just be like, dude, this is some good stuff, So I kind of got it like not even realizing. And then later on, whenever I find somebody that's heard of him, it's still pretty exciting because not a lot of Christians have heard of him.
Oh,
that I know of. Yeah. The other person I met that I had on here was Dan Hamlin. Oh, okay. And he actually saw him live once.
Wow. Where at?
I don't remember where he said. Not local. Okay. I think it was maybe when he was living in San Diego. Somewhere not. It wasn't local, but so he actually got to meet him and stuff. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Do you have any favorite songs? I know you said you're not good with titles.
I would say the most mainstream one, sure. Farther Along.
Okay.
Is a great song.
Farther Along. I don't know if I've heard that one.
I'm pretty sure.
Have I heard that one?
I'm pretty sure you have.
You don't know what album that's on, do you?
The blue cover. Since we're doing pictures here, not words.
Blue cover. I'm trying to think now.
Oh boy.
Because I think I have his whole catalog, I believe, unless he put out something new recently. So I'm sure I've heard it. You're probably right. I probably heard it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll have to look that up later. What was it called? Farther Along?
Farther Along.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
it's like probably it's number 1 or 2 or 3 song. It's up there.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Very cool, man. All right. So lastly.
Yes.
In music. This is where it's going to get dicey now.
Okay.
You need to try to give me your top 5 of all time musical artists.
Okay.
And it can be the span. I mean, it can be from 5 years old to up to now, which makes it even easier, right, to come up with 5.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I did cheat. Sometimes when you know like a quiz or a test is coming, you start studying beforehand instead of like just winging it.
That's smart.
Yeah.
See? That's smart.
And I will say that I was unable to stick to what is current in my life right now. And I had to think, I can't find a top 5. For myself.
Okay.
I had to subcategorize it to a point where I distilled it down to, top 5 compositionally. How is it as a composition, right?
Yeah.
And so the bands in which I came up with are mainstream, unfortunately. I'm not going to introduce you to anything great. Everyone may agree or disagree. Maybe it's too sold out. I don't know.
But see, music is subjective.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of it.
All right. So top 5. We have Tupac.
Okay.
All right. Metallica.
Nice.
Led Zeppelin. Queen. And then I paired up the two only because there's so many similarities between the way in which they compose their music. And that is Linkin Park and Imagine Dragons. Just the way in which they handled their tone.
Interesting.
Music. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to start with that one.
Okay.
Just because that's an interesting comparison to me.
Between the two of them?
Yes, I think so. Now, I'll say off the bat, I'm not hugely familiar with Imagine Dragons. Like, I've probably heard 10 to 12 songs. So, I know what they sound like. Yeah. I like the songs I've heard, but it's not like I've ever bought their albums and listened through a whole album or something, But Linkin Park, love Linkin Park, but I would never compare those two bands together.
I do.
Okay.
And
I know. I'm interested. I'm interested in why. Like, I want to know why.
Because I think if you remove the tone and the lyrics, you can see what they're trying to do.
Okay.
Again, with composition.
Okay.
They're including beats including the guitar. They got something inorganic coming from what they've orchestrated in the background using synthesizations and stuff in order to build a bass to what they're going to now create a tone. And they're on two different ends of the spectrum as far as tone.
Right.
But I think that at the base of it, I think they do a wonderful job at combining all the elements of various music.
Okay, so it's I see what you're saying then. So it's more like the musical sound.
Yeah.
That's kind of a conglomeration of a bunch of different
what things they can do with instruments and inorganic materials like the computer to create something to support the tone they want to put out.
Okay. That makes sense.
It does?
Well, no, that does make sense because I guess for me, I always think like vocally is where I tend to go first.
Okay.
And I think of something like Linkin Park where you have, Chester singing / screaming and you have, Mike Shinoda like rapping.
Yes.
And it's like, because I remember when the Hybrid Theory album came out, that just blew us all away. Right. Because we had heard rap rock before. You had like Limp Bizkit and you had some of these other, Korn kind of was in that genre a little bit. But, you had other stuff like that. But I think Linkin Park was more...
Yeah, but have you ever heard Collision Course?
Is that later?
That's when they pair up with Jay-Z and they do a mashup between the two.
No, haven't heard it.
So Linkin Park and Jay-Z mash up on like 5 or 6 songs.
Oh, really?
And they overlay,
is it an album? Is it like an EP or something?
I think so, like an EP.
Okay.
And
I'll have to
so then you get this Linkin Park with some rap beats, and you can hear that.
Nice, man.
It does well.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. So since you're real good with titles, can you give me some favorite songs by either of those groups?
I had to write them down.
Oh yeah, let's hit it.
Tupac, let's see, Ambitions as a Writer.
Nice.
Dear Mama and Changes.
Okay.
I like the narrative more than the music itself.
Yeah.
Metallica, I'm sorry, Master of Puppets. I love it.
Is that the best album? You think?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, for me.
Okay, so I have to ask you, did you watch Stranger Things?
I did.
Okay.
And here's what's interesting. So when that song came out at the end, I'm like...
Yeah, right?
Mine is blown.
Yeah.
And it was like this just cherry on top that was dropped from like a 20-foot elevation onto the sundae itself, right?
Nice.
And it was just finished. And Caleb was with me when we were watching it.
Okay.
And he's like, what is this song? And I'm like, oh, let me tell you.
Was it at that moment you realized you might have failed as a parent?
I did that. And I repented.
You're like, how does my grown son not know Master of Puppets?
Yes. But what's interesting is after introducing him to the song, and again, I'm being judged by every Christian family that's at our church right now.
Yeah.
But either way, he went off and he, a week later, came back and ripped it. Played the whole song.
Dude.
Yeah. And I'm like, I love it. I got it recorded on my phone.
And that's not a simple song either.
Oh, no. And he told me, like, he was breaking it down for me because, again, I'm not musically inclined.
Yeah.
There is a part where there's a downstroke that is just so fast, right?
Right.
And he said a lot of people cheat and go down and up. Stringing it, like they'll hit that string down and up to try and match the speed.
Right.
And he's like, no, he was just doing it.
He had to do it the right way.
He had to do it the right way.
Nice.
That's Caleb for you.
But see, I would have never caught that either. And I mean, I am big into music, obviously, but like, I think only someone who plays the instrument could even notice that, first of all, and then aspire to play it the right way.
Right.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
A week later, I'm like, that's insane.
That's insane, dude.
It's an 8-minute song.
Is he doing anything with that? I mean, is he like in a band or anything?
So he does worship team at church.
Right.
And sometimes he leads every once in a while.
Right.
But the level of skill that is required to be on the worship team, no insult to any worship leaders out there.
No, it's
a ministry.
correct.
And it's a pastoralship. It's a shepherding more than it is a display of skill sets.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be a display of skill sets, right? Exactly. That's why I'm wondering if does he have an outlet? Like he should be in a band or something.
He probably should be.
He and Aiden should get back together, man. Start rocking that.
Yeah.
Dang, that's so cool.
He's rocking it every day.
Yeah.
At least like an hour just playing in his room. We have to tell him, Caleb, it's Thursday and it's 10:30.
Yeah. Do you remember the first song you ever heard by Metallica?
I would probably say Inner Sandman.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And that was a trip. Like, it actually scared me a little bit hearing this narrative about evil spirits and stuff. I'm like, I've seen horror movies, but you're making it very real to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like...
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a scary song.
There's two things that have caused me to not want to lay my head upon a pillow.
Yeah.
And it was Inner Sandman and Freddy Krueger.
Nice.
Like,
Nice.
I'm like, can't do it.
Yeah.
There was a period in my life I didn't sleep a week.
Right. That's probably, guys our age, that's probably the answer that's most common, is Inner Sandman was the first song. Because, I mean, that was 91 when that album came out. It's like, I remember first hearing that. Going, oh my gosh. I mean, I'd heard the name Metallica. In fact, I remember on the street I lived on, there was a kid down the street that was probably 5 or 6 years older than me. And I remember he had a sticker, a Metallica sticker. And he used to wear the t-shirts and stuff. He was like a headbanger guy. So I knew that band was out there, but I didn't really listen to it. And then when then Enter Sandman came out, and then I bought the Black Album.
Yes.
And then started going backwards from there. And listening to Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets and all that. I was like, wow, like this is amazing, right? You know, and I might be with you on Master of Puppets being, although the Black Album is just, I know that's not the popular one to say is the best one, but oh my gosh, The Unforgiven, Nothing Else Matters. I mean, there's just so many good ones, but I mean, for me, I would probably take. Arguably,
the Black Album is more of an emotional narrative than Master Puppets.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can appreciate that just by itself.
It was there. I think that's where they really found it, and then they lost it right after that. Yeah. I don't know how in the world you can write an album like that. And I don't know if it was just the massive touring for that album that just destroyed them or what, but then they come back with Load.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like, I mean, again, there's a couple decent songs. I mean, Until It Sleeps is a cool song. But yeah, that was like Mama Said or whatever. It's like a total country ballad. And I'm going, what am I listening to? what happened to you guys? And they haven't really, in my opinion, got it back since. No. They've had a couple decent songs on each album up until even right now. They just had an album come out. Like,
oh, really?
Like 6 months ago. Yeah, 27 seasons or 17 something. I forgot now. It's decent. But it's nothing like the Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, Black Album, and Justice for All Days. It's nothing like that. I mean, not even close.
Have you seen the one with the orchestra?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Watching that, I didn't watch it live. I watched it on TV, but just cranking it up. Yeah. And you got the band in the background. Strings are breaking, trying to keep up. And you know, the whole orchestra is just falling apart.
Such a neat idea, though. Yes. And it fits. Like, was it S&M, I think is the name of the album? Yeah. So good, dude.
Symphony and Metallica.
Yes.
I just want to make that clear.
Yes. Not whatever the other one. I don't even know what that even stands for.
I don't care.
I mean, no, I know what it has to do with, but I don't know what the actual letters stand for. But anyway, maybe it's better we don't. So, all right. So Metallica. And did you give me some songs by Metallica that you?
So Master of Puppets was the first For one. Whom the Bell Tolls.
Good one.
Yeah. Side note, and is I'm an Atlanta Braves fan. And in their stadium, whenever our player is up to bat, and it becomes a hitter's count, 3-1, 3 balls, 1 strike.
Okay.
A bell tolls.
Okay.
And so I'm always thinking about this song. I'm now 44 years old, and I can't get away from this song. I mean, it's not like it was excellent, but it was good. Right. It was good. And
that's on Ride the Lightning, I believe, right?
Don't know.
I think it's on Ride the Lightning. Yeah, that's a great song. Love that one.
One. Good narrative.
Do you remember the video for that?
No.
Where the guy, I think it's like clips from a movie. I don't know if it was featured in a movie or what it was, but it's like the guy's like, he's got his face all bandaged up, and there's like some talking in it where he's like, it's you hear the voice of the guy inside, but he can't talk, he can't move, he can't see, he can't do anything. He's just laying there, but he's still conscious.
Oh wow!
And you hear him saying, like, trying to ask for help or trying to say this. It's really kind of creepy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's a creepy video. But
right.
But yeah, I'm with you on that song. Good song, dude.
Good.
All right. Is that it for Metallica?
That was it, yeah.
All right, and then we got, how about Led Zeppelin, man?
Kashmir.
Nice.
Black Dog. And Immigrant Song.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the way Immigrant Song opens up.
Yeah.
It's got me hooked until the end.
Is that the one they put, that's the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that Immigrant Song?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one, dude. Reminds me of Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, wonderful. Again, that was at the beginning of the movie, so I don't care what the rest of the movie was.
Yeah, right? That made it. That made it right there. Yeah. Funny you mentioned Black Dog. A lot of people don't mention Black Dog. But that's the first that I can remember. That's the first Led Zeppelin song I ever heard. Mm-hmm. And I loved it.
I wonder if that's why.
Maybe.
I wonder if that's why it clicked.
Yeah.
Because again, while doing the homework, I was listening to some of the songs, and I'm like trying to remind myself which ones, and it was definitely these three. Yeah. I mean, I know that they're up in the top 10, but definitely not number one.
No, not Stairway to Heaven.
No.
Yeah. Which is a great song. I mean, it is a great song. But that's
talk about being played out. I mean, we deal with a song being played out this last year. We don't have to worry about it being played out again after this year.
Right.
But that song continues to be played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never dies, man.
No.
Never dies. Okay, so Black Dog.
Yeah.
What was that immigrant song? Cashmere.
Yeah.
So that's the one that Puff Daddy did right? It just builds. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, that's a good song.
I'm so glad that you can do it.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I just gotta say the name, and you're gonna key it up to remind the listeners,
just in case. Well, because they're one of those bands, and it always drives me nuts, where they name the song something that the word is never said.
Yes.
Like you never hear the word cashmere in the song. You never hear the word black dog in the song.
Nope.
It's not there. Mm-mm. You know, Stairway to Heaven, it's there.
Yeah.
Immigrant Song, I don't think that's in there either, right? That's not even
No.
It's like, why do you guys do that? Because then it's so hard to remember what the song is. Mm-hmm. Song title should be like whatever the chorus is. The words you say the most. You know, that should be the song title.
But then we're putting it in a box. We don't want to put music in a box.
That's true. You don't want to hamper their creativity. All right, cool, man. Queen. We didn't talk about Queen.
I know. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Again, composition. The guy was he was amazing.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury, you mean?
Yeah, as far as a musician.
Yes.
As a person,
Yeah. I haven't seen the movie. Have you seen the movie?
I saw part of the movie.
Okay.
Before I turned it off.
Oh, you couldn't handle it?
I got the point.
Right.
I got the point halfway through, and I figured they're just going to ride that point till
Which
the
you
end.
Probably knew that part anyway going in.
I did, but
you just didn't know they were going to make such a big deal out of it.
I was hoping more about the music.
Right.
And I did appreciate, there was a point where they're in a castle making music while, doing their party.
Yeah.
I appreciated that aspect of it, the grind between the musicians and them trying to submit to his creativity.
Right.
I know. I imagine how hard that would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
To submit to one person when you don't clearly understand where he's going with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he's one of those guys too. I kind of put in a unique category, like one of a kind, Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
Right. Like personal life aside, I mean, he was a very eccentric person, very unique mind when it came to writing and singing. Even singing, like the guy's vocal range was just amazing. Like you could hear one song by Queen and then hear another song by Queen and think it was two different singers.
Yes.
It's just like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
But then you listen to something like Bohemian Rhapsody,
right?
And he's all over the place in that song. Like,
Yes.
how many singers are in this band? Oh, just the one. What? That's the same guy? It's very, very talented person.
I actually thought it was a female most of my adolescence.
Oh, really? Okay.
Until we get to my adulthood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And what do you remember the first song you heard by them?
Under Pressure.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
The Vanilla Ice song?
I know.
Isn't that the Vanilla Ice one?
Yes.
Doom, 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 doom.
Yeah. And that's probably why I went to it. And I'm like, wow, this is so much better. I mean, Vanilla.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vanilla Ice. I don't know how you got the rights to this.
Right. Well, he didn't.
Oh,
do you remember seeing the lawsuit?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! See if you can find the YouTube on him talking about this because it's actually really hilarious.
Okay.
Bethany and I talk about it often because it's just so funny.
Yes.
But they came. His song came out, Ice Ice Baby, and they're like, oh my gosh, this guy totally sampled our song. He turned it into a rap song, whatever. He denied it. He's like, no, and you can actually see it in the interview if you look it up. What? He's like, no, their song is like doom 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 doo doom 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 doo doom doom. Mine is doom 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 ding doom 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 ding, and he's actually saying that. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? But they sued him, and I think he lost.
Oh, I hope
obviously.
so.
I mean, dude, just give credit where credit's due. All the rappers sample old music. Just say, yes, I sampled Under Pressure by Queen.
Yes. That's
probably all they wanted. They just wanted the recognition. They probably didn't even want any money from you. Just tell the world, yes, I sampled this song. You know, but he's probably thinking, this is the only song I'm known for. This is my famous. This is my baby. If it gets out that I didn't really write any of it, you know, other than the rap lyrics that I put over the song, you know, it's like, it's just funny, dude.
Yeah.
It's really funny. So a lot of people our age would say, and this is my part of that, is Bohemian Rhapsody was the first song I ever heard by them.
That was probably the second.
Just because it was in Wayne's World.
Yes.
And I remember watching that scene in Wayne's World. I mean, they play the whole song in the scene in Wayne's World. It's like, this is really cool.
Thank you for the honor, by the way.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, and I remember hearing it and I go, oh, who's this band? And that's one of those songs that's funny because that song hit the top of the charts in whatever that was, 93, 94 or something like that. And the song came out in the 70s.
Right.
And I remember my parents being like, that's an old song. And I'm like, no, this song's really, really cool, you know? Like you saw it happen with Master of Puppets, with Stranger Things, or the song that Max was hearing by Kate Bush.
Right.
That song shot to the top of the iTunes charts.
Okay.
And all these kids are like, oh, this new song by Kate Bush. I'm like, that came out in like 1977 or something.
Right.
That's an old song, you know? But it's neat when that happens. You know,
I think of Guardians of the Galaxy and Blue Sky, right?
Yes.
Same thing, like all these songs, like,
yeah.
I just have no idea.
Yeah, that whole soundtrack was great, dude. That's awesome, man. All right, so Bohemian Rhapsody, Under Pressure. By the way, Under Pressure, that's the one with David Bowie in it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you got a third one or a fourth one by them?
Let's see. I appreciate Somebody to Love because of the vocal range. One that I would come back to is I Want to Be Free.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That is a good one. I don't think I know Somebody to Love. I think of the Jefferson Airplane song.
This is the one where he hits the pitch, man. Okay. He's like, at the very end, I can't. I'm not going to try that. I was thinking about it, like, how high can I make my voice right now? Man. You almost tricked me.
Yeah, you might have found your niche.
You almost tricked me.
You start singing with your family, man. Yeah. You almost had it.
I actually don't want to try right now, but I'm not. I can't.
I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. All right, and then we did... Oh, then Linkin Park, Imagine Dragons. We'll stop with those two.
Oh,
any songs you can give me from them?
Yeah, the popular ones. Breaking the Habit for Linkin Park. What We Done.
Okay.
Yeah. And Imagine Dragons, Believer. And I like Natural.
Okay.
I know when that came out, it was just, I don't know. It's down at like number 18, I think, as far as popularity. But,
okay. Sometimes that's the best songs, man.
Yeah, I like it. It gets an emotional rush for me. I could listen to that song on repeat while I'm exercising.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to have to check into some of these. Linkin Park, I honestly, if I'm being honest, I pretty much heard Hybrid Theory.
Okay.
Because whenever I listened to some of the songs that came after that, it was so different to me from the sound of Hybrid Theory that it kind of bummed me out. Okay. And I kind of like put them away for a while. But like Aiden showed me certain songs that he likes because he's followed the band, he likes them, and he showed me ones. I'm like, oh, that is pretty cool. Well, that is pretty cool. You know, so I need to give it another shot. I need to go back, start with their second album, and go through from there. Right. I did hear some of the stuff that came out on their final album after he had passed. That was very emotional. You know, some of the, you know, just giving what after he passed away, and absolutely. And now Aiden and I have been talking about the new singer. Have you heard this?
The female now.
The female. Okay, it's not bad, dude.
Okay.
I know it's gotten a lot of flack online. A lot of people ripping her apart and stuff. Because I heard the single and I was like, okay, it's cool. But what I really want to hear is how is she going to sound when they play Crawling, or they play a song like from old Chester, like because obviously they play live. They're not just going to be playing the new stuff with her that they're writing. Right. The fans are going to want to hear the old stuff. Yeah. So then I found a live version of Crawling with the female singer, and I was like, yeah, pretty good. I mean, definitely not Chester, but you know, it's not bad. You know, not bad. So I mean, I think people are going to give it flack because it's not Chester. Like, oh, you're replacing him, but it's like, just come on. These are all still musicians. That's what you remember. It's like, yeah, Chester was the vocalist. But the rest of these guys they're writers too. I mean, they're writing this music. They're writing these songs. They still are writing songs. Right. Who's going to sing them?
Not, and it's not very gracious for me to say, but the son of Sublime. I heard that that is not very good.
Oh, you heard incorrect.
Okay.
I would say you heard incorrect.
Okay.
I was blown away.
All right.
By how much he sounds like his dad.
Like on album or live or both?
This was a live recording I heard.
Okay.
Because he was playing with them for a while at certain shows, and I think it was Santeria.
Oh, okay.
Was the song that he was doing that I saw live. And again, I mean, Bradley Knowles was a unique, one of a kind dude.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to replace him.
Okay.
But it was pretty good, dude.
All right.
It was good enough for me to think you guys need to start having him. You guys need to become Sublime, with Jacob or whatever, it's
Sublime
like
Junior.
Yeah, right, exactly, because I mean, Sublime with Rome, okay, decent, nothing bad there. But for those of us that loved Sublime, loved Bradley's writing, loved his voice and the styles, and it was kind of a shot, but so was his death.
Right.
It was like, oh no, what are you doing? It's such a tragic story, and then from the fans' perspective, tragic for us, because we're like, where's the man? You're coming off of that third album was just phenomenal. You guys are really starting to hit your stride, and then now nothing.
Right.
So anyway, all right, man, cool.
Again, I want to preface this list as being PC.
Yes,
just an appreciation of composition.
Of course, yes. You're not still rocking Tupac and bumping down the street on your way to church.
And it's interesting over the years that, you try to come back to it, and I might be able to tolerate it for like an hour after the first couple of years of salvation. And then, okay, I got to turn it off. And then you come back to it 30 minutes. Now I'm like, I really can't even come back to it. I listened to it for a minute. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. The Spirit has no tolerance for it anymore.
Yeah, which is good for you, because then you're saved.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's a good sign.
It's assurance of salvation, right?
Right.
All right, cool. This is where it gets fun.
All right.
This is the fun stuff, dude.
Okay.
Get into politics.
Yeah,
are you a political guy?
Because I'm so well-versed.
Yeah? You got to be these days.
You would think so.
Some scary stuff happening right now, dude.
There are very scary stuff, yeah. I like to believe that God is in control, and there's very little that I can do about it.
Yeah.
And
I'd have to agree with you on that.
Yeah. And as far as politics are concerned, I have a very strong opinion, and one would argue whether or not it's educated or not.
Okay.
And but it's on a policy by policy basis. It's not necessarily married to any particular group. Though I am registered as, and though I would vote 9.9 times out of 10 Republican,
right,
but it is because they align mostly with what I believe.
Not because of the name Republican.
No.
It's because they're generally going on the lines that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And arguably, if Kennedy was to be on the ballot, I may have inclined my vote more towards him if that was the case.
Right.
But he's not anymore.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing with the third party thing, and it's a bummer, but in a sense, it's almost like throwing a vote away. In a sense, because it's like the third party's never going to go anywhere again. Unfortunately, just because we have this very strong two-party system. We've never had any other party win ever, not even come close, really.
Right.
Ross Perot might be the closest, right, that we ever had.
Yes. So, how long ago was that?
A long time
Before
ago.
My voting age.
Yeah, probably me too. Yeah, that's probably, when was that? 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm with you. But I mean, but even like, what are your thoughts on the two candidates we have?
Yeah.
Right now? I mean, it's for me, it's difficult.
Yes. Because
I don't really like either one of them.
Right.
Like, I like one more than the other, but I don't really like any of them.
Sure.
I wish there was someone else running instead of Trump.
Right. I mean, I can understand that.
I mean, that's who I'm going for, because he's not her.
Right.
And he, as far as I can see, the country's going to be a better place if he's in office than if she's in office. That's the way I look at it.
I agree with you. And I don't concern myself too much with because it's not a position of whether or not I like them or not.
Right.
It is, what are their policies? What is it they're going to do? How are they going to manage the resources in which they have?
Right.
And fortunately, we have history with both of them.
Yes.
And history is a good tell that we can't imagine that most people will change over the course of time if it wasn't for the Holy Spirit. Usually pretty much people stay the same. And I have liked Trump's history politically than I have enjoyed Kamala's sorry, that's not very respectful. Harris's history, because we're not really on a first name basis.
Yeah. Plus, you pronounce her name wrong, and they'll jump on you for that.
I know, right?
Yeah. People say Kamala, and they're like, "It's Kamala."
I don't know if I should do it with a southern accent or if I should do it with
whichever accent she uses.
Right.
I mean, she uses a different one depending on who she's talking to.
Right. Yeah.
That clip about when she was full on southern, like,
oh boy,
I was like, oh my gosh, do you realize how ridiculous you sound right now?
Yes.
I mean, if you talk like that, fine. I got no problem with that at all. But we all know you don't talk like that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you did just for that one speech, it's like, come on.
It's funny because I flash back to my mother. Because my mother, growing up in the South, she has no Southern accent in living in California. But I could tell when she got off the phone with her mom because she would have a Southern accent for at least a couple hours.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
It would come out of her.
That's so cool.
No, so I don't know if that relates to Harris or not, but it just didn't seem right. The whole thing didn't seem right. So as far as liking Trump, no, I don't like him as a person, but I love him as a politician. I love what he's done in the past, and I look forward to hopefully what he's going to do in the future.
Yeah.
And I would vote for Trump many times unless there's someone that comes in that has the same policies that he has, but happens to be a decent human being.
Right.
Or at least be able to control their tongue in a decent way.
Yes. And I saw that in Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, absolutely.
I totally did. I was like, "Oh, he's the one," because he's all the good that Trump is, without the bad that Trump is. Right? It was perfect.
Right.
Very easygoing. Factual. Like every time somebody would try to hit him on something, oh, what's up with this "Don't Say Gay" bill, Ron? What's it? He goes, "Show me in the bill where it says that."
Right.
Show me in the bill where it says "Don't say gay." Where is that? You guys keep calling it this. You got the whole country calling it this at this point.
Yes.
It's not even in there. Which again just shows like the push from the media. They're able to get the whole country talking about, oh, Ron DeSantis and his "Don't Say Gay" bill.
Right.
What are you guys even talking about?
Because there's a nation that reads a headline but not the paragraphs below it.
Yes. Because they don't care.
No.
Because they don't like DeSantis to begin with. So they're like, oh, he hates gay people? All right, we're running with it.
Right.
Get your torches and pitchforks, let's hit it. But he never said it. And they do the same thing with Trump.
Absolutely.
Oh, Trump said this. No, when did he say that?
Yeah.
Show me he said that. Oh, everybody knows he said that. I don't. Where does he say it? But I think that's what you got to do. But what you just said is the way you answered that question a minute ago, if I didn't know you, if you didn't say you were Republican, if I didn't even know you were a believer, nothing, I would be able to tell you, I bet you're a conservative.
Yes.
Only because you said, it's not that important to me if I like him as a person. What I care more about is his policy.
Right.
You don't hear people on the left say that very often. They're more about, and I even had someone on the show who's like, I just can't get past who he is. I cannot get past the things he's said, the things he's done, who he is as a person. And I'm like, yes, but how is that going to affect your personal life? It's not, because you're not hanging out with him on the weekend.
Right.
What is going to affect your life are the policies put into place by these presidents.
Yes.
That's what's going to affect you. I don't like him either. Again, I wouldn't let my kids hang out with him. I wouldn't let my wife anywhere near the guy. There's no way.
Right.
But when it comes to who's running the country, these are my two choices.
Yes.
Sorry. But on the Republican side, people say, oh, I can't vote for Kamala Harris because she's annoying. Or because her laugh is terrible or whatever. It's like, well, that's not the right reason. I mean, I agree with you. She is annoying and her laugh is terrible. But that's not the point. It's her policies I'm concerned about.
Sure.
Right?
And these policies are coming from behind a curtain.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were to watch her and how she conducted herself as a VP, it was non-existent.
Right.
I mean, it was absent.
Yeah.
And and we judge it based on actions.
Right.
What are you going to do? And again, I know this has probably already been reiterated and hammered, but they make a very good point. You are VP of the nation right now, and you're preaching about what you're going to do when you have the authority to begin the process now, and you're not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you have whatever resources you have now and how you manage them now is going to be how you handle greater resources.
Correct.
So
yeah, and that is the best response they can give to her, and that's why like J.D. Vance keeps saying that. Trump is now saying that a lot now too. That's exactly it. I mean, especially because the situation she's in, where the actual president is off the job, basically. I mean, he's technically still the president.
Yeah, wear MAGA hats and everything.
Yeah. Hey, you know what's funny? Recently, I don't know if you saw this, but like how Harris was hammering Ron DeSantis for his treatment of the hurricanes in Florida.
I didn't see it. Go ahead.
So she's been hammering him. about his treatment of the hurricanes in Florida. Like, oh, he's this, he should be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Just rips him apart, says he's handling it terribly. And Biden gets on there, like a couple days later or whatever. Oh, no, man, Ron DeSantis, he's doing a great job over there in Florida. He's just doing a great job with those hurricane relief and all this stuff. And he's totally undermining her. And it's like, somebody's a little bitter, I think. Somebody's a little bit bitter by getting booted out of the seat to run again, you know? So it's just funny because he's like, you got to appreciate it. I mean, the guy's a lifelong politician.
Yes.
He lies constantly. He says what he needs to say. But I mean, it's just kind of funny that even in his dementia-riddled old age, he's still able to throw a couple jabs her way, you know, subtle jabs. It's like, hey, everybody, just so you know, she kicked me out of here. You know, so it probably wasn't her. It was probably the Democratic Party in Congress was like, look, dude, your debate performance with Trump was terrible.
Yes.
Terrible. You're gone. You're not going to beat him. We got to put somebody there who is.
Right.
You know, and I was, when they first put Kamala in, I was like, oh, yes. There is not a chance in the world she's going to win.
Yes.
And now they start seeing the polls. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. What? Right. Like people are, and then all these people that were hating her, just hating her before that. Now all of a sudden, oh, she's the greatest woman to ever walk the face of the earth.
Right.
Because she's not Trump.
She's not Trump.
She's not Trump.
She's a picture ideal of what people want her to be.
Right.
But she comes nowhere close.
Yeah. Yes. Right, man. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And you think in 3 weeks, we're going to know the outcome of that election. 3 weeks, dude.
Yeah, plus recounts. So maybe
plus recounts.
So you got about 7 weeks.
Yeah, after the voting machines turn off for a couple hours, and then they got to turn them back on, and they got to figure all that out. Yeah. You know, they got to burn the ballots under the machine that fell to the side and all that stuff.
Well, eventually now.
Yeah, we'll know at some point. But I mean, come this January.
Oh, I know. We'll have a new year.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so what do you think it's gonna look like either way? Like give me a rundown of like the country Donald Trump's got a second term or the country with Kamala Harris having a first term. That's probably kind of a loaded, big, huge question.
It is a huge question because, I mean, you talk about the many facets of government and whether or not the government is big or small, right? Mm-hmm. If Harris is in there, we picture a big government with their hands in gun policy, gender policy, school policies,
right.
Taxes, foreign exchange, increasing relations with countries such as China or whoever they can line their pockets with.
Right.
And the middleman, I believe, hurts the worst when you try to supplement those who have not with the resources of those who have, mm-hmm. and you get the 1% to 2% that get to maintain the lifestyle that they continue to maintain under Harris policy.
Right. So you think if she got in, you think it would be kind of a continuation of what we've already had with Biden?
Yes.
And maybe amplified?
Amplified, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you plant something, it's going to continue to water and grow. And so what they've already planted is an example of what we can expect to continue in the future.
Right.
What we've had in the last 4 to 8 years is what we can imagine, that they don't want to supplant what they've already done. They're going to continue to water it and grow it. And,
right.
and we're going to see ourselves, and I think, a more unhealthy position, right. both as middle class and as a nation in our relations with foreign relations, Ukraine, Russia, Iran,
yes.
China. I don't agree with hardly any of their policies and the way they interact with those nations.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of political commentators right now that are talking about if Harris gets in, and it sounds like doomsday talk, but I mean, I think there's some truth to it. They're saying that if there's ever going to be a World War III, it's going to be if she gets in, because we're already inching that way, mm-hmm. right? With all the, like you said, the foreign policy, the things that are happening, the dealings that the Biden administration has had with these other people in other countries. It's like, it's not good. No. It's not good at all. You know, so kind of scary, man.
And if Trump gets into place, I imagine foreign involvement gets less. They get put in a particular place in a box. China is now forced to go back to China, mm-hmm. and not have so many dealings here on American soil.
Mm-hmm. As far as like jobs and stuff, you mean like
jobs,
stop
land,
outsourcing?
Land, any sort of spying that existed beforehand, and maybe continue to grow again under this current regime.
Right.
more taxation for products that are coming in to help American companies that are currently in place now.
Right.
You know,
right. Because if Trump knows anything, it's that, right?
Yes.
It's the way business works and the way in interdealing. And I think his foreign policy has been great. Like what he's done with some of the, you know, like even with Putin and even and even the China Xi Jinping and all that. You know, I mean, he's like when he was in office, Trump, he was dealing with. I mean, he was talking to these people.
Sure,
he went and met with Kim Jong-un for crying out loud.
It's art of war number one. Keep your enemies close.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
But then the critics would say, "Oh no, he's in cahoots with all those guys. That's what's really going on." And they'll say that if there's a second Trump term, that the world's going to end. Because basically he was so cocky, see, that he thought for sure he was going to have 8 years. Mm-hmm. So he didn't do anything too drastic in his first 4 years because he was going to do it all in his second term.
Right.
That's what the critics would say on the other side. Like that's what the left people would say. Mm-hmm. That's why we don't want it, because he's already said he's going to be a dictator from day one. And like, you know, and of course it's going to be a bloodbath, right? They take all these little things he said and they blow him into something else. It's like he wasn't talking about a literal bloodbath. He wasn't like, "Oh, once I'm president again, I'm going to just take to the streets and just kill everybody. I'm going to be a dictator, and it's going to be a bloodbath all over the streets." It's like, really?
No.
Come on, people, really?
No. But I don't know how much of it is a conspiracy theory, but it is interesting that we were on a pace, and if it wasn't for COVID, this bomb that was dropped, I wonder where we would be at. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But that's all I can say on that.
So how do you, since you mentioned COVID, you know, my show's been flagged before when I talk about COVID.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, let's talk about it. We talk about it anyway. We talk about anything on here.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I had to start changing my wording in my episode description. Mm-hmm. I used to put like COVID.
Yes. As
part of the discussion. And my daughter called me one day. She's like, "Do you realize that 2 of your episodes got flagged on Spotify?" I'm like, "What do you mean they're flagged?" She's like, "Yeah." And I realized it was because I had COVID or I had vaccinations or I had something along those lines in my episode description. They flag it.
Yeah.
Can't be talking about this stuff. You know. But anyway, since you mentioned COVID, how do you think Trump handled COVID?
Poorly.
Okay.
And I like Trump in the way in which he usually handles policies. Mm-hmm. I think he bent when he doesn't normally bend to agencies like a Fauci. You know, he started off strong, said we weren't going to have a knee-jerk reaction to this. We're going to let it do whatever it is it does as a virus.
Yeah.
And then Fauci and all these people talking at angles, and they're worried about numbers, and we want to try and get you reelected. Okay, then, you know, there was retreat. Let's put on masks. Let's think about this whole vaccination thing. And yeah, I disagree, because I saw a contrast to how he came out, and then there was the final response before in his last season.
And do you think it's political?
I do.
Okay.
I mean, why would you change? Why would you go backwards? What were the facts? And he never really came out that he was wrong.
Right.
He never said I was wrong in my approach to this. But
yeah.
It's been so long, I can't think of any particular interview or statements that he made. So I may be talking, I might be wrong in the way in which I'm perceiving it.
Right.
As far as I can recall.
Yeah. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But
4 years.
There's still people that live as if it was yesterday.
I know, yeah.
That's what blows my mind.
Yeah.
You know?
It saddens me that there's still so much fear and concern in that arena. There's so much other things to worry about.
Oh yeah. 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 And I think we were all, when COVID first hit, I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I was scared when it first came out.
Yeah.
Just reading the news, you got these bodies are piling up in New York. You're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going to happen when it gets here?" Right. And then it gets here, like, "Oh no. People are getting COVID," you know, and then we've all know somebody that died from COVID, you know, and it's like, it's kind of scary at first.
It is.
But then as stuff started happening and you started to look at stuff and you're realizing, okay, this doesn't seem to be what the news is making it out to be.
Sure.
At least in my area. I mean, I don't live in New York. I don't live anywhere else, obviously. But now in hindsight, you look back and you're like, what was really...
Yeah.
And I'm not a conspiracy guy at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had many conspiracy, big time conspiracy people on here, and I'm not the guy at all. I mean, I'll entertain it. We'll talk about it, but I'm more of I need to see some form of evidence not just, oh, so-and-so's cousin's brother's roommate works for the government. And he's in hiding now because, it's like, well, where's the evidence of that? Well, I can't show it to you. Right. The government is keeping it under wraps. We can't see it because the government's, and could they be right? Yeah, they could be right. But they could also be wrong. Yeah. And I have no way to know which one it is. So I'm not really going to pick a side there. I'm going to wait till evidence presents itself. But I think with COVID, a lot of evidence did present itself.
I think so.
Right? Like a lot of that was pretty shiesty. A lot of stuff happening there. So
yeah, it was huge. I was concerned about it as well, and I don't know if it was a fear response or just a skeptical or cynical response, but just looking at all the numbers and crunching. They have this website dedicated to all the numbers of who was dying, where and when, and what the population was in that area, what was the population that was passing, and it gave percentages and, the whole breakdown. I think it was the World Health Organization that had that website. And I'm like, I'm going to go to a source that arguably could be influenced by the media, the mainstream, or whoever wants to. Yeah. But I'm going to go ahead and run their numbers, right? I'm going to check it out. And like a nerd, I did that for quite a while. And it came up to, though it had certain regions had higher numbers, the overall number was like a 2% mortality rate. Yeah. And I had a hard time that it was very similar to pneumonia or any sort of other respiratory disease, right? I'm not saying that it wasn't bad. I got COVID and it was the sickest I've ever been over the course of 5 or 6 days. I was in my bed and I can't remember the last time I was so sick I had to stay in my bed.
And was that like close to 2020 or was that later?
Yeah, it was close to 2020.
So it was the first strain that came through. Yeah,
first strain that came through. Both Corinne and I got it really bad. So it exists. It was horrible. Yeah. I believe it exists. But I don't know. I would debate and argue with sciences, but some people have such a strong passion about it that I know that it's probably best not to. And in the end, does it really matter?
No.
I think that it was a virus, and we've experienced viruses over the years, and we should have responded to it in the same manner in which we respond to other viruses.
Right. But the thing that you're right. But the thing was different with COVID is it was the media making it become what it was, right? And somebody, I forgot which commentator it was, said this. They said if they would have reported on, if every year they would report on the flu virus, the way they reported on COVID, everybody be scared of the flu, right? Because lots of people, elderly people mostly, same with COVID, died from the flu every year.
Yes,
it's just the way it is. But we don't know about that. Like they don't broadcast it like that. They don't show us statistics. Oh, did you know that 1,000 people in your town this year died of the flu? What? The flu? Oh, this must be some. I mean, people lose their minds because they don't understand that that's been happening for years and years and years and years, right? So I think that was a big understanding for me because the way the media first started presenting it was almost like you said, it was a 2% mortality rate or whatever, right?
They were advertising as much higher.
Correct.
Much higher.
They were making it sound like if you walk outside your door,
you're going to die.
You got a 1 in 2 chance of dying.
Yes.
Right? You better stay inside, wear 14 masks on your face.
Right.
Don't touch nothing. Take baths and hand sanitizer. Whatever you got to do.
Which the masks, they even advertise they're no good against viruses.
Right.
It's like throwing a hot dog down a hallway.
Right.
And I don't know. Yeah.
Which Fauci even admitted to later.
Yes, later.
Right, later. Yeah.
After the damage done.
Yeah, after his book came out and his Netflix special and all that stuff, and he's. Yeah. You don't hear much from him these days, though.
They either think very poorly of us to deliver the truth, or they fear our response so much that they have to lie to us.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. So, do you think then that there's different theories on this? So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you think that COVID was designed and created for the purpose of releasing it in America for control purposes, or do you think that it was created? We know that already.
From bat poop
in the lab, however it was. They created it, and do you think the leak was accidental, and then the government kind of used it for power, even though it wasn't part of the original plan, or do you think that was all part of all right, it's election year, we got to control some things, okay, let's release this deadly virus, into the population?
So for 3 years, Trump was actively involving himself in Chinese involvement on American soil. causing policies that forced China back to China. And it's interesting that it was China that has a particular virus that would cause such a disturbance at such an appropriate time as a re-election. I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know.
Okay.
But coincidences are hard to swallow.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I believe that. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm not trying to say. I'm just saying that it just doesn't look good.
Right.
How about that?
Bad on the optics.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it makes me skeptical of the Chinese government.
Okay.
And it makes me.
How far do you go with that? Do you not buy stuff if it says made in China?
I try to buy American made.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're not like worried about it. Like,
no, I even try to shop local too. I mean, I'll go down to the store and pay 50% more at like a local hardware store than before I go to big box.
Nice.
But
which is probably a good practice anyway.
Try to.
You know, I
mean, if I can afford it, if I can't, I mean, if I'm talking about hundreds of dollars and buying a bunch of lumber at Home Depot, I'm sorry, I have to feed my family.
Right. Right. Yeah. Don't feed them lumber though. There's better.
No, yeah. But saving them money to feed them.
Unless your family's a bunch of beavers. I mean, who knows? Okay, so kind of leaving the presidential election area. What do you think would be? And this is a very loaded question, so you can kind of go wherever you want with it. What would you see as like the biggest issue facing our country right now? Like the way I ask it is like if you were elected tomorrow and you had all the power to change any one thing that you wanted to in the country, where would you start?
Fiscally.
Okay.
Fiscally. And I could be a complete idiot on how to approach this.
Okay.
And someone in economics can be like, you're 100% wrong. There's no way, no how.
Right.
But let's just say I rule the world. This is a monarchy.
Yeah.
You're going to do what I say.
You do. In this scenario, you do rule the world. You have all power. Yeah.
I'll take our annual income and I'll look back on the course of time in which our budget was less than that income. And anything that was created in that time span, I would hack off.
Oh, interesting.
So
and start back then.
So let's say we make $100 billion a year.
Okay.
And the only time that our spending was less than $100 billion a year was 1975. Then anything that was created from 1975 to currently, arguably, obviously case by case basis, but most of that spending would be gone.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I tried to do.
Interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting approach. You go back to the point in time where things were looking right, and then just cut it off there and start building from that point.
Right.
Okay.
And in honesty, in my opinion, we have a very big government that we don't necessarily need to have. And that if we reduce the government's involvement in some social aspects, such as homelessness and welfare and all these other not extraneous, but these serious topics, these serious problems, things, if we remove that crutch, maybe we force the people to now roll up their sleeves and say, I'm here for you. What is it you need?
Okay. So less government reliance.
And more of the neighborhood, the population, us.
Right.
This is our town.
Yes.
We have someone hungry in our town.
Yeah.
Let us feed them.
Right.
We have someone that doesn't have a job. We have fields. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we have opportunities for them.
See, I'm with you. Like I'm not an economist. I'm not smart at all, really. So when you ask me, well, how would you get that done? I would say I have no idea. Yeah. But just the idea of it sounds like the right thing, right? To minimize huge government control. I mean, small government in each city, fine.
Yes.
But like those local governments are going to work towards their people in their area.
Yes.
And let everyone else do the same, right?
Accountable too.
Yes.
They got to see me at the local Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Right.
I can't correct Trump.
Right.
Can't correct some other politician, but I can challenge someone locally. Like,
and that's part of the problem, I think, right? Is it's just too, too big.
Too big.
Okay. So you're a fan of small government, but not no government.
Of course. We're still a small nation in the world.
Right.
and we need representation to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And we have small governments. I mean, there's some towns in the hills of Tennessee that might be doing things that they shouldn't do because they are culturally in a bubble and don't understand that it's not right to treat certain people that way.
Right.
And there needs to be a government to step in and like, you guys are out of pocket.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's major stuff.
Yes.
Right. Like obviously we need
civil
to stop people from murdering people.
Yes.
That needs to be dealt with, obviously. But how do you feel about like? I mean, I know how you feel about. I assume I know how you feel about certain aspects just because of your Christian beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you look at things like abortion.
Yes.
Well, let's start with that. Like, do you think it's a good thing that Roe v. Wade was overturned and that now the states decide their own on that as opposed to the federal?
Yes.
Okay. So you see that?
Absolutely.
Because I assume you're pro-life.
I am.
So you see that as not necessarily a fix, but you see it as a step in the right direction?
Step in the right direction. Definitely not a fix.
Okay.
Definitely not a fix.
Okay.
How is it that a government can speak to what responsibility do they have to intercede on the life of the mother or the life of a child that would eventually, enter our world, but it's still life of a child.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's the way pro-life people see it. Pro-choice people, not so much.
Right.
They see it as a life at some point.
Yes.
But not the same.
But what's interesting is that if you asked 100 people, they would all differ on to when that became a life.
Yeah.
So clearly, scientifically, it's not. I'm sorry. Scientifically, it's proven.
Right.
But in as far as when the law should interact and say when it is, differs.
Right.
And it becomes very, very shady.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. People, some say, well, first breath. Some people say it passes through the vaginal canal, which I loved one guy's response. He's like, what happens in that vaginal canal? Right? Like, as that baby's traveling down there, so on this side of it, he's not a human. He's not alive. He's dead, basically, not alive.
Right.
And then he comes through here, and all of a sudden he pops out on this side, and he's alive. He's a human. He's living. It's like, what's happening in that little tunnel? I mean, it's a powerful tunnel.
Well, I don't know the specific sciences. It's been a while since I took science class, especially biology or genetics. But from what I understand, the genetic makeup of a person, whether you grab it from any particular cell, there are indicators that is a cell for this purpose, but the DNA is still in each and every single one of the cells.
Right.
And so when the DNA of the female and the DNA of the male come together and it knits itself together with all its peptides, and you create this long strand of DNA before the cell divides.
Right.
A single cell still. The DNA is in place.
Yeah.
God has knitted them together in their mother's womb by using peptides, ADGPT, to make the thing together and create this ladder.
Right.
And then it is finished. And then it divides. And then for some reason, God tells what each cell it is going to do inside of the person.
Yeah, but that's not God. That's all natural, unguided, evolution that does that. No intelligence involved. It just kind of happens, man.
Yeah, okay, well then maybe we can see... no, I know what you're doing, but it's good. If that was the case, then we should have been able to see it recreated.
Right.
But it's all theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest hang-up. Because, I get into these discussions about abortion with both pro-life and pro-choice people, but really the only question is, when does life begin? That's ultimately the only question that matters in that debate. Because if we were all united on that, let's say the whole world agreed that sperm to egg is when life begins, right? That's conception, boom, there it is. That's life, very, very small. It needs to grow into a baby and all that, but it's there. If everybody agreed on that, then they would have to argue about if murder is right or if murder is wrong. Because that would be it. Because if you say, well, if it's a life and you're killing it, that's murder, right?
Right.
But they say, no, it's not murder because it's not a life. It's not a life until, like you said, there's different views on that. It's this many weeks or whatever. I heard a guy the other day talking about, what was he saying? They always talk about viability. But this guy was talking about like something like collected consciousness or something, which only happens at like 14 weeks or something. So he's like, he's against abortions after 14 weeks, but before that it's nothing. But of course that doesn't answer the life question.
Right.
You know, and it's but I mean, even if they don't agree that it's a life at that point, you have to at least agree that you're cutting short what would become a life. Mm-hmm. Right? If we're going to assume, okay, life doesn't happen until 15 weeks, and you stop the process at 13 weeks. Right. You prevented it from becoming 15, 16, 17 weeks and growing into what it's going to be.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, none of that matters to anybody because it's become a feminist issue.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. My body, my choice. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what it's all about. Don't stop trying to take away women's reproductive freedoms.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know, reproduction happens before conception.
Right.
Right? I mean, that no one's telling you, forcing you who you can and can't have sex with.
Absolutely.
Nobody's telling you that. That's not what we're saying. That would be us taking away your reproductive freedom.
Oh, yeah. I'm pro-choice. You guys should have to make the better choices on the front.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Right, man.
Choose not to have the baby. Choose
That's
not
what
to
I'm
have
saying.
sex.
Choose not to. Yes. And
that's what I meant. Choose not to have sex.
Right. Exactly. Because there's always the potential. Mm-hmm. You don't know. Like I've told my story on here lots of times, but I mean, our first child, who's now 25, we were young. We were not planning to be parents at that time in our lives. We were on the verge of breaking up when we found out she was pregnant. Wasn't part of our plan. Bethany came out of the bathroom sobbing with the pregnancy test.
Right.
It was not a happy day, you know, but it wasn't like it wasn't against anybody's will. We knew what we were doing. We didn't think that would be the outcome.
Right.
But of course we knew there was a small possibility it could be the outcome. Surprise. You know, that's on us, you know? Yeah. So it's just like, what are you going to do? Oh, now I can just kill the baby because I gambled and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. Not how that works.
No.
You know? So, yeah.
Anyone with a rational thought would understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what's interesting, right? Is they would say the same thing about you. They would say anybody with a rational thought would understand that, look, man, this is a woman's choice, and you can't tell her what to do with her body. They think they're being rational when they say, I'm with you. I don't think that's rational at all. But this is what's fascinating to me on the separate sides of this issue, is each side fully believes that what they believe is 100% correct, and they think the other side is just nuts.
Sure.
Right? They're absolutely crazy.
So using science, right?
Yeah.
And then cause and effect. Arguably, that, like you just described, and like our pastor said this morning, he was spitting seeds out of the patio. And over the course of time, watermelon began to show up in the ground itself.
Boom.
There was nothing that was done besides the spitting of seed.
Yes.
And it came in to be a watermelon. The only way in which that watermelon would not have existed is that if he went down out of his way, pulled that seed out of the fertile soil, and did something else with it.
Right.
And he chose to be God himself and saying, I will not allow this to become a watermelon. But it's cause and effect.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to argue and you say that you're being rational in saying that it's the mother's choice. That's not cause and effect. That's not science.
Yeah.
That's opinion. That's self-preservation.
Right.
That's everything that is about you and nothing about rational.
Right.
There's no logic there.
Yeah.
It's all selfishness.
Yeah. Well, and it is. And that's why you see a lot of the, like the actresses and stuff that say things like, oh, I wouldn't be where I am today if I wouldn't have gotten an abortion 10 years ago. I wouldn't have won this Academy Award had I have not gotten an abortion 10 years ago.
And the world would have been the same.
Yeah. True.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because seeing a great movie, hey man, I love seeing a great movie. But it's not a make or break for me.
No.
It might be for that person who gets to put their little Oscar statue up on their mantle, you know.
And as Christian men and women, we know that it's not about what we do.
Right.
It's about what God does in and through us.
Yeah.
And he could have very well have empowered that person to win that Academy Award. Yeah, but if he wanted that, he could have done it with a child as well.
That's right. That's right, man.
My God is bigger than your God.
Yes.
You can only do this without a child.
Right.
My God could have done that in your life with a child.
Yeah. Right. Of course, they don't do it that way.
No, of course not.
Because God's not real.
Of course.
You know, that's logical. All right. So other than, so what's another issue you think? What's your second issue you would go for?
I have a couple of issues.
After the economy. You fix the economy, we're booming, everything's going great in the economy, now what?
Well, I'm partial.
Okay.
I work in the prison system.
Oh, okay.
So prison reform, criminal justice system.
Okay. So perfect. You're probably the perfect person to talk about
Not
this.
perfect.
You are the expert on this.
No.
We're putting
but
it
I
out
do
there,
have
man.
an inside eye.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Not an expert.
Yeah.
Not an expert at all.
All right. So how do we do that? What do we do?
Well,
What's the problems, first of all, I guess I would ask you. What do you see as the problems within the prison systems?
much like my wife, side note, my wife likes to remind me that I might come home with an idea that I'm going to help her. And I roll up my sleeves and I begin to help her. And she comes home and she's like, I didn't want you to do that.
Yeah.
If you wanted to help me, you could have asked. I would have told you what I wanted you to do.
Right,
and it would have been far more helpful. Now I got to redo what you did.
Right.
Or something. I don't know. Not that she would.
Yeah.
She's very thankful. I don't mean to put her in any sort of negative light, but it's just a matter of when we are hoping to help someone, and we want reform, we want recidivism to go down, we need to find out what they need.
Yeah.
We need to get to know them in a sense and have a conversation.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably discover that on various different spectrums that a person is struggling with mental health, and we need to approach it with mental health. Okay. They try to do so, and I think they try to do the best that they can. They adjust medications, they try to place them into programs, but living in a 6x9 cell and having limited access to programs and placing them into programs that are mixed in with general pop, it's not necessarily the best thing for them.
Okay. So you think they should have So you think they should have like separate wings of the prison, like one that's for them, like more mental?
And we do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, we do. But we also have facilities that intermix in various programs that they're doing. So on the job site, you'll have someone that is on 5 different psych meds reporting to, reporting to work and working in on the food line with other individuals that are GP. And
so it's the intermixing of the population that you think is a problem?
I didn't mean for that to come out as my opinion of thinking that's a problem. It's just something to think about and address.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's a particular problem. I do know probably one of the major problems in the prison system is that there's only a handful of people that want to better their lives.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's only a handful of people that want to go to school, want to learn a trade, want to go to work, want to serve their time in the hopes that they can do better as a husband and father or even as a citizen and put off the old man.
Right.
Very few handful.
What do you think that the other part wants?
Thug for life.
Oh, really? They just want to continue to live. They're fine being in jail. They'll just go out and do something again, get back in there.
Whether it's immaturity, the victim mentality, that they're not looking for reform in themselves, that they're going to blame society, or they're a part of a particular culture that is a business of doing criminal behavior. They might enjoy violence.
Yeah.
They have a lust for it.
Which usually goes back to upbringing, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's just something that's
8 times out of 10,
learned.
I would say that these guys grew up in a fatherless home.
Right. Yes.
And so what's missing then?
Yeah.
If it's not school, it's not the education system, it's not what programs that we have as far as playing ping pong at the local rec center that they'll ditch and go play basketball. It's mentorship, it's involvement, it's rubbing shoulders, it's getting involved. It's like I said, the big government, small government. It's a community recognizing who's in our community and saying this individual does not have a father. Is there anyone? Gentleman that's just retired, would you spend time with this person? Granted, they might tell him to kick rocks. I don't know the scenario, but fostering the opportunity for these connections to be made in the hopes that old men can teach young men how to be men.
Right.
Right. And
which is the biblical model.
Yes.
Right. That's something we've lost.
It is something we've lost.
Yeah.
But going back to the prison system is we want to force the issue. At least in the California prison model, and when a person arrives, they are forced into education, they're forced into work, they're forced to do something. And 8 of the individuals that are there, that's an extreme, let's just say a majority, 6, it doesn't matter.
Right.
A majority of the people that are in that classroom or at that work site would rather just sit on the yard doing politics, playing cards, doing basketball. And so they're just there. And we know that one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. How much more if the majority of them are bad apples?
Right.
Do they bring and spoil everyone else?
Right.
Conducting their prison politics or business in the midst of people trying to better themselves.
Right.
So weeding that out, no longer forcing it. If you want to be a criminal, this prison over here is for you that want to be a criminal.
Okay.
And this prison over here is for those who actually are trying to aspire to
Who want to
improve
be
themselves.
rehabilitated, want to go back out into society.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that just for the sake of politicians in the department wanting to put their stamp of approval and name on something that worked, they crunch numbers and force the issue.
Right. Right. Now, do you think that what you just presented is something that a lot of people within the system would believe? Like, you think they think that's something that needs to happen?
I think that if you were to talk to anyone that is in the system, watching the system, being part of the system, either first, second, or third line, then yeah, they would agree.
Okay. So that being said, do you think that that's something that will happen eventually, or do you think there's people on the way higher up that are against something like that? And if so, what do you think their motivations are for not wanting to do that?
Right. So, based on actions, because I don't know the man, Newsom.
Yeah.
I don't know him. But based on actions.
He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Closing prisons, creating, pushing policies that allow an inmate to parole early and hit the streets, allowing crime to escalate, keeping the jail system packed.
Okay.
These are all things that are a smoke and mirrors to say that he reduced the prison population, to say that he's saving the state so much amount of money.
Right. So it's all political again. We go back to politics.
There's no change in behavior.
Yeah.
The heart issue is still there.
Right.
The society is still struggling with people that either want to better themselves or don't want to better themselves.
Now, but is that really black and white? Like, could there be a counselor or somebody that went in there, and let's say they come up for a parole or whatever, they come up and they have a little hearing or whatever, right? And I've seen it in the movies, I've never seen the real thing, but they always ask them, sir, do you think that you are rehabilitated and are ready to go out in society? Yep, I sure am. And then they either get the stamp of rejected or the stamp, I've seen Shawshank. Yeah. Stamp of rejection or stamp of whatever, and do you think it's that black and white to where, because obviously they're always going to say, oh yeah, I'm ready, man. I'm a new man. I'm never going to hurt anybody again. I'm never going to steal nothing again. Let me out. I'm ready to go. Right. So it's up to the judge or whoever is hearing that to try to decide, is this guy for real? Is he really a changed man, or is he just trying to act good now so he can be let out, right? Is that, do you think that's a difficult job, or do you think it's pretty black and white to tell the difference?
I think the way in which policies are made, they've made it black and white.
They have? Okay.
They have, because it's based on what programs are you involved in, how often do you violate rules while you're inside of the prison, using some sort of point system, good behavior, then you're able to trickle out.
Okay.
But it's not really based on, I don't know. Like, I don't think there's any knowing.
Because you're being asked to judge someone's heart, really, is what you're being told, right?
You're seeking change, and you're hoping that the actions that you've observed through not violating rules, actions by being involved in programs, that you're changed.
Right.
But we know that works is the most pharisaical thing, that you could be a horrible person, but on the outside perform as if you're great.
Right.
And it is only those who are there with a person day to day that knows whether or not a person is full of it or not. Right. And I think there are staff on the line that know the population and could say, this person is doing well. This person is growing.
Right.
This person, but there's rarely a time in which those staff members are inquired.
Okay.
And it's all on paper what a person looks like.
Okay, because that's what I was going to ask you: is if are there those people in there?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so they're there, but they're just not being consulted when it comes to whether or not this person has been rehabilitated or not. And yet they would be the ones who would know better than anybody.
Yeah, I think the consultation would occur on more often on mental health, like when a person is either deteriorating or not deteriorating. Is this person responding well to medications? A medical would inquire of staff, like, what do you think? You see them every day. I only see them for an hour a week.
Right.
That happens.
Okay.
But as far as paroling or not paroling, I don't see that happening. I don't remember any phone calls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and that's interesting because that's the way it should be, right? Because if it's up to the judge, all he knows is what he's seeing right now for this hour or however long it is that this guy's in the courtroom. You don't know that guy personally. You don't know what he's, he might have even told all his buddies before he came in, oh, watch me pull the wool over the eyes of this judge. I can't wait till I get out so I can go kill 10 more people or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
But the inner circle, they know. They know. They would know this guy, oh no, man, I can't even, it would be like the people who would say, I can't even believe the crimes that this guy's been convicted for.
Right.
Because the person he is now, I would never guess in a billion years that he was capable of something like that.
Right.
That's the kind of rehabilitation you're looking for, right? Somebody on the inside circle who would say that about you, right? Which is like Christianity in a sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've had friends that are now Christians that they talk about their previous life, and I'm like, you did not do that.
Right.
There's no way you did that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I went to jail for 10 years for that. You did not. I mean, it's almost unfathomable because you know the guy. You're like, you're not capable. He's like, you're right. Right now, I'm not capable of that.
Yeah.
But pre-Christ, I was, and I did.
Yep. No limits.
Right. Exactly. So it's fascinating. Wow. See, now I'm even more, making me scared even more of the prison system, which is good because then I'll just never go there.
Yeah, don't go there.
Unless I get arrested for being a Christian.
I parole in 5.5 years. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah? How much longer do you think you'll go? Because I know the guys in those kind of jobs usually retire a little earlier than the regular pop, right? So, I mean... Yeah,
so depending on what career field you're in, it varies, and it depends on when you came in because contracts vary. But at my contract, we're at 50 years old is the earliest in which you can retire.
Okay.
And collect a percentage of your paycheck based on the number of years that you've worked.
Right, right. So, but if you go past 50, the more farther past 50 you go, the more you get in your retirement, basically?
Yeah, but you max out at 90% of your income.
Whew.
So it's 3% a year. So if you do 30 years, you get 90% of your income.
That's awesome.
That is awesome, which actually ends up feeling like almost 110% because you're no longer paying into medical, union dues, and taxes and everything else. Yeah,
and no more stress. Yeah. And you're just chilling at home with your family. Yeah. At that point, probably entertaining your grandkids and everything else, right?
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Corinne encouraged me. She said the moment that you can make up the difference doing a part-time job, then just go ahead and slide on it.
Right? Yeah.
Because the prison system's not easy.
Right, right. Well, and plus, and I don't know, wives will tell us once you retire, go get a job, something you like to do.
Immediately.
Because they do not want us hanging around the house 24/7.
No.
They just don't, She's
already told me.
Yeah. And at least they're honest about that.
Yeah,
that's one of the things.
So what are you going to do when you're retire? I'm like, babe, I got 5.5 years. I'm still working on this job. She just wants to make sure I'm not at the house, like looking over her shoulder. Is that how you're going to clean that dish? Yeah. That's how you put it in the dishwasher?
Right, yeah. Oh, man. Too funny. All right, let's hit one more, and I'll let you pick it. Let's hit one more political topic or one more fixing the country issue before we go to another break, and then we'll talk spiritual stuff.
I'm going to be a broken record in the way in which I think we handle particular issues, but homelessness.
Okay. That's a big one.
Homelessness.
Gavin Newsom fixed it, man. You just have to have the guy from China come.
Yes.
And then it's fixed.
Oh, yeah.
So if we can just get that guy to visit every single city in America, no more homelessness, dude.
Isn't that great? Isn't it? Isn't it like how I go to church, or when I invite a family over to my house on a Sunday, and they're like, it's so clean. Oh, your home is so beautiful. I'm like, you should have seen it on Monday.
Right.
You should have seen it on Tuesday.
You don't understand. We spent all day making it look like this. Yeah. All the kids were working. Me and the wife were working. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I love about my wife, is that she's like very real. It's like, people live here and we don't have to go clean up the house. I'm the one with the issue.
Right.
I'm the one that will actually clean up the entire house because people are coming. So I love that she helps ground me in that.
Yeah. So,
but okay, so homelessness. In the same manner in which the response to the criminal system is that I think that it's relational. If we need to help a population, then it needs to be relational. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need to go there. We need to go to the streets. We need to get to know the people. We need to ask them, how can we help you? And unfortunately, it's going to fall into categories that maybe we don't have an answer to, because number one, it's mental health. Mm-hmm. And so if it was the community and the church body, we would have to defer them to a doctor.
Okay.
And maybe it's drugs, and we're not going to go give them more drugs. And that's what they're asking for help. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that we can offer as far as help is to get clean. And like, they don't want to get clean.
See, that's the problem you run into, right?
Right.
It has to be willing.
Right. And then number three also is they want to be there.
Right.
These are the three major problems. You got mental health, you got substance abuse, and then they just want to be nomadic.
Yeah.
They want to be there. And as a society, then on a small scale, we have to address, okay, so if these are the categories and they want to be where they're at, they don't want help and they're content, where are they allowed to do so?
Right.
And partition that out. Because clearly we want our streets to be safe. We want where our kids can walk. And I noticed I don't know how biblical this is, but a community's response to homelessness was creating, what's it called? Where you can't do a certain thing, like where you can't skate on the sidewalk. What is that called?
Where you can't?
Yeah, where you can't skateboard on a sidewalk.
Like a restricted area? Or
like almost a policy, but local, an ordinance.
Okay.
Like a local ordinance, right? Where you couldn't have a shopping cart in the park after 10 p.m. Mm-hmm. It's not like we're relocating a person, to a prison, or we're relocating a person to an island outside of the city.
Right.
But we just simply take the property that's not allowed to be there.
Yes.
And now the person no longer wants to be in that area with their property.
Right.
And so they relocate on their own to a place where they don't have that ordinance.
Right.
So we should, as a community, be able to say, this is the zone in which drugs, those who don't want help with their mental health, the people that want to be homeless, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But we have our children, we have society to watch over, and this is our safe zone, where ordinance protects us. Yeah. And if you don't want to be here, then...
Well, that's kind of like, so at the library, when we first opened that new building, there was all kinds of chairs and benches and stuff outside in the plaza right outside the library. Mm-hmm. Well, the homeless people were all over those all day. They just sit in the chairs all day, and they would, if they're on drugs or they're schizophrenics, they're yelling stuff out at the families that are walking through there to get to the library. It became a big problem. Mm-hmm. So instead, like you said, instead of just telling the people you can't be here, because then you're going to have all these other laws, discrimination laws. That how can you can tell that person they can't be here, but this person can be here? They just removed all the benches and the chairs.
Which is horrible too. Like, I want to maybe sit outside.
Well, right. Yes. But what that caused them is to go somewhere else where they could sleep. Yeah. Right? So that's kind of what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
I agree. I wish it didn't come to that.
Yeah.
But, it worked for the most part. So...
I mean, like a little sticker system, like, the meter maid that comes by 10 a.m. Yeah. And you come back at noon. Oh, you're still there? Yeah. Now you got to go. There's someone else that wants to sit on this bench.
Yes. You've overstayed your welcome.
Or your materials shall be ours.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know. And then, again, but it comes back to community. So those are the people that don't want help. But then the people that do, I think it should be on the community. We can find jobs. We can feed them. We can care for them. We can find them a place to stay. This should be on us as Christians, as not on the government.
Okay. But you again, just like with the prison thing, you think that the group should be separated into those that want help and those that don't.
They separate themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't force a person to want help from me.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But as we look at the situation, that's the way we should assess it.
Yeah.
We should be like, okay, this is a facility for those that want help. Mm-hmm. Right? Because like you said, we can take a person who's homeless and say, all right, it is illegal for you to be out here. We're going to either arrest you or force you to go into this facility. Right. Most of the time, that's not going to work out well because they don't want to be there.
True.
So they're going to be a hassle. They're going to do anything they can to get out of there, to get back on the streets or whatever, right? So you have to deal with that.
Yes.
So I guess the easy side of that is, okay, here's this other group. These people really want help. They messed up. They got addicted to drugs or whatever. Maybe they're just down on their luck. They lost their job, lost their family. They're on the streets, but they really just need some government assistance or they need some help from somebody, right?
Yes.
That's an easier side because they're willing. And you're like, oh, great, man. Let me show you where help is. Oh, really? Oh, thank you so much. Right. And they go take it and they use it and they come out and it works for them, right? But what do you do with the other side? What's the solution to them? You just let them stay on the streets? Or
yes, but not in the zones in which we determine to be safe.
Okay.
So you can go to these 3 locations, facility, prison, or where it's outside of a zone.
Yeah.
But you can't stay here.
Okay.
This is where it's safe for our family and for our friends.
Okay.
You pick where you would like to go. And that is relation. It's not like a force. That sounds callous, but it's because we've dialogued with them that we feel like what is the best place to go. We want to be the love of Christ to them, right? We want to, and the love of Christ is relational.
Yes.
It's asking questions. It's dialoguing. It's not like, you can't be here, kick rocks.
Right.
It's like, what's your name?
Right.
How are you? Where have you been? We need people that have that ability to not be, yes, be uncomfortable, but as the Holy Spirit leads, to interact with a population that is difficult to interact with and be patient, loving, kind, and have a heart for wanting to help them.
Right.
Now, if they don't want the help, this is a safe zone. Feel free to move on. Yeah.
Go to the unsafe zone.
Yeah, well, just a zone that...
Yeah. The war zone.
I guess. If it becomes that way. I hope not. But we do want our kids to be able to play in the park safely without having to worry about needles and mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
But why? And it always comes down that line to where if we say stuff like that, sometimes people accuse us of not caring about the homeless people that are there. They have struggles too. Who are you to think that you should get your way and let your kids play in the park?
Right.
This guy has just as much right to sleep on the bench.
Yeah.
You know?
Forgive me for not knowing of the problem.
Yeah.
Until that person sat on the bench in a place in which I want to go.
Right.
I'm so naive and I'm so closed off that I didn't realize that he was over there. But now he's here where I want to be. He's intruding upon where I want to play with my children.
Right.
And he's brought my attention. I could, like I said, have no kind heart and kick him out.
Yeah. Right.
In the sake of letting my children go play. But that's not relational.
Correct.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying have a relationship with the person.
Right.
Care about them and then encouraging them and empowering them and equipping them.
Right.
I've helped them.
Yeah.
Now I can come back to my children and enjoy them.
Okay. And that sounds awesome, right? In theory, that sounds great.
In theory.
Yeah. Right? But like, what about a scenario where you're attempting that and the person is just hostile, volatile, violent, or whatever?
And that's why I say we do not defund the police.
Okay.
Fund the police. The police are amazing. I love you guys. Boys in blue. Go guys.
There you go. Okay, so have it to where you try to develop relationships, but if that goes south, then you call in the authorities.
Yeah, much like when we have a brother, right, that is maybe in error, we come to them in gentleness with a brother. We ask them where they're at. We set them on the path, but they still rebuke you.
Yeah.
You kick them out.
Right.
To the devil.
Yeah.
As scary as that is.
That's harsh, man.
It is harsh.
That doesn't sound like a God of love.
But because you're ignoring the months before we kicked them out, of trying to have a relationship with the person and encourage them.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I don't really know what my thoughts are on. I mean, I have thoughts, but I don't know if I really have a good solution. I think what you just said, especially like the idea of not separating necessarily, but the idea of viewing it as two separate categories, right? Two separate groups of people that have two separate ambitions for life, for what they want. Do they want to get out of this? Do they not want to get out of this? Yeah. That's a big difference. That's a big deal, because when this topic has come up on here before, the question is always like, well, how do you, yes, we all want to help people, right? That we're all agreed on that. Yes, let's help them. Or like when a homeless person asks you for money. For most people, we're like, no, if I knew for sure that I was helping him and I could, and I was within my means to help them, yeah. Somebody comes to me and says, I'm starving, man, and I have the money to go buy him a Big Mac or something, I'm going to buy him a Big Mac.
Right.
But the problem we all have is like, but if I give him money, really, where's it going? Am I supporting his meth habit? Or is he really going to get food? Or is he going to buy alcohol? I mean,
right.
That's the problem. The problem is not so much, but a lot of times people paint it like, oh, this particular group, you just don't care about the homeless. You just hope they all die and you just don't care. You got no compassion. There's no compassion from you. No, that's not true. It's just we want to make sure that we're actually helping them and not harming them farther.
Right.
Right? So so the question that the part of the conversation where I always get to where I'm like, okay, now what? Is when you have those people, they're like, I don't want your help. I don't want to get off the streets. And you're thinking, well, you kind of have to because you're causing a problem, right? You're not just being quiet and living somewhere nobody can see or whatever, right? You are a public nuisance. You know, people get mad at me for even saying that. But it's just the way it is.
Yes.
That's a problem that needs to be fixed. It doesn't mean I don't care about that person or I wish any ill will on them.
No, yeah.
But you have to figure out a way for both things to be working together, right? Like you said, it has to be people that can take their kids to the park. But at the same time, we have to find a way that this guy can just live.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So it becomes difficult. So I don't think I really have a solution. But I think what you said is really interesting and good. Like, I think that's a good way to look at it. And I'm not sure I've ever heard anybody really say that before. Okay. But that is the problem, right? Is the difference.
Yeah.
Right? You're dealing with two different
Who
kinds
wants
of people.
help? Who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I would go with it. So thanks for revolutionizing my life.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, you really gave me some food for thought there, man. All right, so obviously we've been talking. You're obviously a believer.
Yes.
You mentioned already that you didn't grow up in the church. You said you were about 20
Yes.
when you got saved. Okay, but not till you were about 31 when you kind of got serious about the Lord. Right. So I would start by asking, knowing what we know biblically of what salvation is, right? It's the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. So do you think that happened at 20, or do you think that happened at 31? Like, at what point? In other words, if you would have died when you were 25,
yes,
do you think you'd be in heaven?
Yes.
Okay, so you think you got saved when you were 20. It just, the Lord kind of took 11 years to really start working some things out in you.
Yeah, I think that maybe it was an immaturity that I just didn't listen to the Holy Spirit. I quenched the Holy Spirit. Okay. Yeah, and it wasn't that he wasn't trying to whisper or guide me or protect me along the way. It just, yeah. Okay. Does that answer it? Or, yeah.
It does, yeah.
No, you probably wanted more.
Well, no, it's not that I want more. It's just my mind's always going.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of.
Well, salvation and the relationship between the Holy Spirit and the involvement is something that theologians could probably argue for quite some time. He would come and bring a helper for me. And what sort of relationship with the Lord exists if I'm not listening to the helper? Right? If I'm continuing to sin, if I'm continuing to compromise. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But I also, after having been a father, and God is a far better father and more gracious and loving and kind father than I ever will be, is that I have children who behave like 2-year-olds, and I give them the grace to know that they're 2 years old. Right. And so in my adolescence, in my immaturity as a babe in Christ, I believe that the Lord was very gracious to me, and he was working some things out that I was listening to and some things out that I was not, and doing a change. Okay. And allowing me to have small little fractures along the way that caused me to not stumble too far. He corrected me. Okay. But it wasn't until, age 30.
He let you get out there a little bit.
Yeah, I was, I have a narrative that everyone thinks that their story is special, but this story is not like anyone. It's like everyone else's. There's nothing new under the sun. Right. I was enjoying sin. I justified my behavior in being self-seeking and enjoying just doing whatever I wanted. Right. you know?
Right. But did you see a difference then, like pre 20 years old? Because obviously you were committing acts of sin before that also, right?
Yeah.
Did you see a difference in your life between committing acts of sin before you got saved and after?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. A conscience.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. The guilt.
Okay.
I didn't have it before.
Right. Right.
I was doing whatever it is I wanted to do before salvation.
Right.
After salvation, every time I did things that I was not supposed to do, I felt guilty about it. But I didn't attribute it so much to the behavior, it was the manner in which I did the behavior in excess.
Okay.
Such as drinking. Let's talk about alcohol, I guess, right?
Sure.
So I know now that there's nothing inherently wrong with the consumption of an alcohol or alcoholic beverage.
Right.
On a case-by-case basis as the Holy Spirit leads and convicts the individual.
Right.
Right?
Unless you're causing your brother to stumble.
Yes.
That's the only stipulation.
And I hope the Holy Spirit would convict you.
Right.
Like
Right.
cause you to be sensitive
Yes.
to that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but just drinking a beer, glass of wine, there's no biblical rule against that.
Right. And so because in my salvation, being that student that just studied everything and didn't find it, I was allowed.
Right.
And then when I got drunk, I'm like, well, at least I'm not a drunkard. I just got drunk.
Right, we keep pushing the line, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not that guy. That guy's got his pants off dancing on a table. I'm not doing that.
Right. So I was easily justifying myself throughout. I was praying, taking my wife to church, and trying to do devotions and, doing the things in which I believed I was supposed to do, but then also enjoying myself on the side with the liberty that is available to all, but it shouldn't have been available to me.
Right.
I should have cut that stuff out of my life.
Sure.
And then with maturity, handled it well.
Right.
And I was immature and did not handle it well.
Yeah. That's pretty common, though. I mean, I think, right? I mean, because it's like you're an infant.
Yes.
When you first get saved, it's not like you're, the height of your maturity level in Christ. You're a baby again.
Yes.
Spiritually a baby, know, so now you have to learn, and that's how you learn to get to know the Lord.
Right.
Hey, Lord, can I do this still? Oh, I can't. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to do it again anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That hurt a little harder that time, but I'm still going to do it. And it's kind of like our kids test us.
True.
It's the same kind of thing. Hey, Mom, Mom's not in the room.
Right.
Maybe I can go get that cookie out of the thing, Or like Bill Cosby says, kids don't know that sound travels.
Yes.
So you hear the paper rustling up there and you get the thing, you get the cookie out of the thing.
Yes.
It's like, wait, what are you doing? I just told you not to do that. And it's the way it is with God, and that's the way I see as somebody who I consider to be mature in the Lord. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're old in their age, or I've known some very young people that are very mature, and to me that's what it kind of means. It's like they have a relationship with the Lord,
yes,
where they just know Him well enough to know I'm not going to get away with that,
right?
Or the cost of that doesn't outweigh the gain or whatever, right?
Absolutely,
like it's, But as a young Christian, you're like, oh, I just want to do that.
Yes.
I'll deal with the consequences later. Just like when we're younger, we're stupid. Yeah, I'll go do that. I don't care. And then you're in jail. Oh crap.
Right.
Why did I do that? But yeah. So I mean, you can't fault somebody. I mean, you can fault somebody for that, but it's not unexpected.
I was fully to blame.
Yeah.
Because I like a teenager testing the limits of when my parents aren't looking, as if he wasn't looking. We know better. Is I know what I was doing, and I still did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is hard because that's when I feel the worst.
Oh, horrible.
Because it's like I know it.
Yes.
And it's like it's almost like I'm face to face with God, and I'm saying, you know what? I know 100% that you do not want me to do this.
Yes.
But you know what, God? I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, what kind of a cocky sucker do you got to be to tell the God of all the universe that?
Right.
And God's going, dude, like I created you.
Yeah.
I created you for much better things than that. Like what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, the flesh. And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Terrible, man.
But how loving is he to continue to be gracious and gentle with us throughout that process?
More loving than I am, I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have jumped straight to correction.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have been the right response.
Right.
No.
Right.
He's good.
Well, because we got to learn, too. I mean, we got to learn from our mistakes. And it's just like with our kids.
Discovering maybe some of the whys. I mean, it goes beyond simple just pleasures, the reasons why we do such things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's childhood traumas and issues and problems and insecurities and a lot of what God has to work out, those heart issues.
Right. Right.
You know, I mean, I could stop drinking like a Pharisee, but I still got the heart problem.
Yeah.
What am I going to replace it with?
Right.
Being super spiritual and memorizing the whole Bible and look at me.
Yeah.
The issue's still there.
Right.
Insecure.
Well, you can stop drinking, which the Bible talks about.
Yes.
And then you can just start doing heroin. Because, see, the word heroin, not in the Bible.
You solved it.
It's not in there. So you just trade one vice for another, and now you're living biblically.
But then it said sober-minded. Sober-minded.
Dang it. You ruined my plans.
Put the needle down.
Right. So, okay, so then what happened what specifically wife at 31?
All right. We're about to get vulnerable.
All right. Said it.
Oh, boy.
You don't have to. Like I said, there's...
It's okay. I'll just, to spare the details.
Okay.
Marital difficulties, not feeling like I could do anything to particularly save the relationship. I justify myself to self-soothing through golf, through other activities like going to the gym all the time, going and socializing at parties, you know what I mean? Being that happy-go-lucky guy, having a couple beers with the people, not necessarily getting drunk, just enjoying company outside of the relationship because we were having a hard time and I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
I felt like I did everything that I could and it wasn't working.
It's like a hard time in your marriage.
Yeah.
And you're kind of trying to run away from that in a sense and find solace elsewhere.
So then I go to a party, I'm being flirtatious, and almost like a moment in which I lose control. Like instead of just being flirtatious, I'm like thinking in the back of my mind, like, oh, what would my life be like if it was with someone else?
Right.
Not that I wanted them,
right.
But there's just somewhere where my mind went somewhere and it was a trigger and it said like, I'm not in control.
Right.
I can't balance this life of pleasure and trying to do the right thing in marriage and church, pleasure, work, balance. And I knew that it was just a moment, like a fraction where my heart had sinned and I was looking for an escape to do something wrong.
Right.
And it scared me.
Yeah.
And it scared me. Instead of going down and drinking more drinks or being more flirtatious, I ran. And I ran back home and I didn't do any sort of confession to Corinne or anything about it because we're not in a healthy place. It wasn't received well.
You felt like it probably just made things worse.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And like I said, nothing of it. It was just simply a heart issue, nothing physical issue.
Right.
And so this heart issue occurs, and I go home and I confess to a couple of brothers at the church. I start reading, I start praying, I try to exemplify what it's like to be a good husband and father, even though we're not in a healthy place.
Right.
I'm biting my lip and calling a brother like, dude, it's still unhealthy. What do I do?
Right.
And and that was my come to Jesus moment. And I realized that I needed to spend daily time with him. I needed to pray. I needed to meditate. I needed to get to know the scripture. And I needed to focus on my priorities outside of myself. It wasn't self-preservation, but not deprecation, but you get the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
And
it's selfishness because it's focused on you, but it's a good selfishness because it's I need to change something about myself. Right. Something needs to change here. This is, yes, I'm a Christian. Yes, I've been going through the motions or whatever, but there's some serious issues in my heart that need to be worked out.
And God's timing is perfect. And like I mentioned before, that we were at a place where we were almost done in our relationship previously. And then Corinne was like, I'm done with this.
Right.
Well, if God had not caused me to repentance then, and prepared me with good brothers and the Word and prayer, then our marriage probably wouldn't have lasted, because she wanted to be gone,
right?
And I was sitting there like, yeah, he prepared me for that difficult season. Yeah.
Almost as if he knows what he's doing.
Almost as if.
Yeah.
And
it's weird like that.
In that, I saw the fruit of continuing that walk, even during that difficult trial, and seeing the fruit of it reconcile a marriage, reconcile the family, kids that were at an unhealthy place became healthy and thriving.
Right.
It's
amazing, dude. And that's why, like you mentioned earlier, like fatherless homes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that's it's wrong to say things like that, but they just don't understand that the nuclear family is such a stronghold for things like that. Yeah. It's just, you cannot deny the facts. I don't care. It doesn't even really matter necessarily what your spiritual beliefs are. You can even leave that out and just look at atheist families.
Right.
That there's a husband and a wife and children. Those children generally turn out better.
Right.
Just because of that unit.
Yes.
Again, it's almost as if God designed it that way.
Almost. And I put a lot of weight on men now.
Yeah.
On men.
Yes.
If there's something going on in your children, there's something going on in the marriage, men, look in the mirror first.
Right.
Because the moment that the Lord caused a situation for me to go to repentance, and I began to practice, not perfectly, because there's been a lot of mistakes. Even the other day, I was having a hard time with just life in general and balance and venting with my wife. But having a kindness and gentleness, the fruits of love and the Spirit, pour upon your wife and your children, and creating an environment for them to thrive and grow in.
Right.
You'll see a change.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure, man. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate the vulnerability.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, devil's advocate time. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Why Jesus? Why is that? Why is Jesus the only way? Why is Christianity? There's so many different beliefs out there, religious systems, beliefs in different deities, all these different systems that you could follow. Why Jesus? Yeah.
It would be a hard place for me to try and convince your mind, which I'm pretty sure that you would have already the answers to that question, preconceived. And to uproot that system might be far difficult for me to do. But let me just share with you my particular narrative. That I lived a life without Jesus. And I was very skeptical, and I didn't initially believe. And so I had to ask myself, if I viewed the world with the perspective of science, and if I viewed the world with an idea of I believe, or what I thought, or what I think, right? Then I know that I'm only limiting myself to my own knowledge. And if we can agree that the whole universe has a wealth of knowledge that is both deep and vast, then what I can hold in my own rational thought is not enough for me to determine eternity. So knowing that true statement, and if we can agree with that true statement, then I began to do a research. Someone introduced me to Christianity, and so I opened up the text and I began to read it. And at first I was skeptical. I did not believe in the literal creation of 6,000 years. And I didn't understand demons and angels, and I didn't understand how Jesus was to be the Son of God, but then he made other statements that seemed contradictory at the time. Right. And so I asked a lot of questions of the text. And the more questions that I asked and the more answers that came to me, I realized that that the Bible supported Jesus, who is a known historical figure. Thank you. The Bible is a source that supported an actual historical figure. And I said that it is likely to be true. And then I ventured off and I asked questions of Hinduism and the Quran.
Oh, you did?
And I asked questions, and I discovered that many of them referred to Jesus as that historical figure.
Right.
And they attributed a lot of his abilities or his character as being prophetical, as being amazing, as being one of the best humans that ever walked on the planet.
Right.
And if I was to place all those bubbles on a piece of paper, everything seems to be centered around Jesus himself.
Okay.
And then redirecting my efforts back to Christianity, holding it to the light that God is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I read every verse with that precept.
Okay.
Then my particular faith was changed.
Okay. So that's interesting. So if I'm understanding you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you kind of started with Christianity and you're looking at that skeptically, right? You're not going into it blindly and be like, well, just I guess I'm a Christian, whatever they say, I guess we'll go with, right? That's the way my mind is. I'm a natural skeptic with everything.
Yeah.
So you go into that and then you decide, I'm going to look at some of these other religious beliefs. And then as you did so, you saw that within those, they also talk about Jesus.
Yes.
And maybe not necessarily in the same way Christianity does, because Christianity would say he is deity.
He's God.
He is God,
Yes.
right? He is God in the flesh.
Yes.
Yet they wouldn't say anything bad about him.
No.
They would say he's a great teacher.
Yes.
He was a peacemaker. He was as far as human beings go, he's on the top of the list. He's awesome, right?
Right.
He's not God, but he's awesome. So that alone makes you think to yourself, interesting, right? Like, because if you say you start following Buddha,
Yes.
or Krishna or something, right? And you start looking at Christianity, that's not going to say anything about those two people,
No.
right? You look into Islam, that's not going to say anything about them.
No.
Like, they're not going to be mentioned. You're only going to find those figures within those religious systems. But Jesus expands to all of them, right? Even if it's not the exact right understanding of who Jesus is and was,
Right.
but he's there.
Yes.
Okay, so that's neat. I've never thought about that. That's pretty cool.
And so as they point to the historical figure and they can't see any fault in him,
Okay.
why is it that these religious systems don't 100% point to themselves and point to God? And they have to mention Jesus. Why is it they speak of him? And so now Jesus happens to be the most important human figure that ever existed in the course of history, according to all faiths that are out there.
Yeah.
Let me pay attention to him.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't even, yes, he directs the attention to himself, but for the glorification of the Father. And though he counts himself equal with the Father, he makes himself less than for the sake of us having a way to access the Father.
Right.
And I mean, that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And I, again, yes, as I would argue with someone that says, why Jesus? That I had to eventually come to a point of faith, but not blind faith because of my research and my skepticism and my questioning.
Right.
I had to come to a faith that I'm going to choose to believe this. And I'm going to try and walk in this in the hopes that it would bear fruit as the scripture describes. But if I was a secular person, in the hopes that it would change my life for the better.
Right.
And it did.
Okay.
And it continues to prove itself to be true.
Yeah.
And I know without a doubt that Jesus is God.
Right.
I believe wholeheartedly in the scriptures.
Right.
It proves itself more and more. And as the Dead Sea Scrolls resurrects itself, it begins to support the text in and of itself.
Yeah.
And
right.
there is 100,000 billion points of evidence that says it is true than that which says it is false, besides opinion.
Yes. Yeah. Totally, man. And that, I mean, I kind of went down that road too, and that's what, I mean, I went through kind of, I hate to call it a crisis of faith, because I don't think it was that far, but it was definitely a questioning. It was definitely a wondering, well, maybe they're right. How do I know they're wrong? You know, these Jehovah's Witnesses, they're pretty convinced. I mean, they're pretty confident in their beliefs.
They are.
How do I know that I have the right one? Maybe they're right. How do I know that Islam's not correct? Those people are pretty serious. I mean, the radical ones are suicide bomb. I mean, they're killing themselves over their faith. That's some serious belief.
It is.
If you're going to kill yourself over your religious belief, that means you really believe that, right?
True.
I mean, whether what you believe is true or false is the question, but there's no questioning that person believes that's true.
Right.
Right? So that's enough for me to say, let me look into that. How do I know I have the right one?
Right.
You know, I mean, because for many years for me, it was kind of like, because I grew up not in the church, as I told you, 24 is when I got saved. But prior to that, I hated Christians. Like, that was the one religious group that I just couldn't stand. And it was because of their narrow-mindedness. It was because of their one way to heaven garbage, right? You're telling me about this Jesus guy who you're claiming is God, and he's saying he's the only way? What about some poor little Muslim kid who grows up in Iraq and he doesn't know any Jesus guy? All he knows is Allah, and all he knows is this. You tell me he's going to be in hell because he doesn't believe in this Jesus guy and this narrow-minded, right? I mean, that was kind of my whole thing. So for me, it was so life-changing that I had to take notice of that. Because how do you become what you hated, right? Like, how do you not only become, I hate the word religious, I don't consider myself religious, but to the outside world, that's what I became. Ryan became religious. And not only did he become religious, he chose the religion that he hated with a passion. Now, a person just in the flesh, in the human, what reason would I have to do that? Right? So then I look at it and say, well, it had to be some form of an act of God. But that was kind of the honeymoon stages, right? That was me going, oh, this has got to be. I mean, man, I'm reading the Bible. I got this desire to get in the Bible. Why? I don't know. I just do. You know, I still don't like church because church was mean to me when I was younger. They shunned me. I don't want to go to church. Eventually I get to church. Okay, I kind of like this now. Why do I like this? I shouldn't like this. This is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, you know?
Right.
But then a little bit more time after the honeymoon period's over, I started to question and go, wait a minute. There's other people of these other faiths that have pretty much the same story as me, but within their faith. They'll be like, I used to hate Muslims. I grew up hating Muslims, but now I am a Muslim, and I believe it wholeheartedly, and I'm willing to die for that. It's like, wow, that's at least warranting looking into, right? So I went down the same route as you, to where I was like, okay, I gotta weave through this, check this out.
Right.
And when I got to the end of it, like you said, I came back and I was like, this is just true.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It has to be.
Yes.
Like, there's no other explanation that makes more sense than this.
It's too perfect.
Right.
Written by too many authors that line up too perfectly over the course of hundreds of years.
Yes, exactly.
It's too perfect.
Exactly. Right.
It must be God.
It must be. Right.
Yeah.
But specifically Christianity, right? Because God is such a generic term.
Yes. Everybody
believes in God.
Yes.
You know, who is your God? That's the real question, right? So what are your thoughts? You mentioned Scripture a minute ago and believing wholeheartedly in Scripture. So, I mean, do you consider the Scriptures to be like inerrant? Do you believe you can read the whole entire Bible and say, yep, everything in there is 100% true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything in the Bible.
Okay. I'm sure there's hard passages that maybe you don't understand.
Oh, of course.
Right.
I mean, any student of the Word would even fail to, or would. I mean, even the most Sunday school passage, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son.
Right.
I mean, let's unfold begotten. You know,
yes,
and love the world. Yeah, those who study and follow the Quran. I mean, is Jesus for them? Yeah. You know, there's just so much to it that we can dialogue, we can chew on it, but it does say to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling first before we begin to witness and defend our faith to the world.
Yeah, well, in that verse you brought up, it seems like a contradiction when you look at "For God so loved the world," and then you look at in I think it's Romans, where it says those that are friends with the world are hostile to God.
Yes.
You're like, whoa, what? Wait a minute. Are we supposed to hate the world or love the world? Make up your mind, right? And to an outside skeptic, they would say, see, there you go, contradiction of the Bible. The Bible's not true. No, because one says love and one says friend. Right. And I can love my enemy. Yes. But I'm not going to make my enemy my friend. Correct. It's not someone I invite into my home. Yeah. It's not someone that I spend time with and let the glean from and let them speak into my life about what I'm doing, you know. And that's the beauty of it. Yes. You have to break it down. And to the outside skeptical eye, they just read those two passages and they think they're talking about the same thing. Right. No. This is another testament of the Bible. Yes. You can study it forever. Yes. You can study 14 hours a day. Every waking hour that you have, study the Bible until you're 112 years old, and you're still not going to get everything you can possibly get out of it. True. Unfortunately, those who are skeptics, not those who are.
But those who really are against and challenge Jesus are not going to do that.
Right.
They'd rather hold on to lofty opinions than search for answers.
Right. Why do you think that is?
Spiritual.
Okay.
I think there's something spiritual going on that causes an aversion towards truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if they could be free of such things, maybe open their eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe it's their own pleasure that they don't want to let go of. But it's not that you have to let go of anything if they really truly understood that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at my 10 years. You know, you might be feeling guilty for a while, until you decide to let go of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's the worst case scenario.
And that's the thing is like, it's not always necessarily a conscious thing, right? You say, well, if they would just let go of that, what they're holding on to, they don't even know they're holding on to that most of the time, right? They have no idea that in itself even takes an awakening. The Lord has to open their hearts to even see that they're hanging on to something, let alone to see that he is the answer to that and to receive that.
Right.
That's where it's all, I just kind of throw up my hands and be like, this is all you.
Yes.
Right? It's all you. Like, and that's why when I get into, like, when I talk to other Christians, I mean, I didn't even ask you what your thoughts are on evangelism, but I think evangelism, true evangelism, is all the work of the Holy Spirit. 100% the work of the Holy Spirit.
Yes. Okay.
I can talk to people till I'm blue in the face. Not going to make any bit of difference unless two things are happening. The first is that he's preparing their heart and that he's using me to minister to them.
Right.
If one of those two is not happening, I got nothing. Right. I can't do anything about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But there's a lot of Christians that put that on themselves. And it breaks my heart because they're like, oh my gosh, my uncle died and I never told him about the Lord. Now he's in hell and it's my fault. No, it's not your fault, dude. I mean, if the Lord led you, persuaded your heart to talk to your uncle and you didn't talk to him, now you're probably going to have to answer the Lord for that because you disobeyed God. But that man's eternal security is not your responsibility. He made his choice, right? If God was persuading you to talk to him and you didn't, and he was and his heart was ready to hear the gospel, then guess what? God put someone else in his life to preach the gospel to him. Right. Guaranteed. Yeah. Because there's not going to be anybody in hell who God's going, man, that guy over there, what a heartbreaker. He was almost there, but Bob over here didn't talk to him. Right. And now he's screwed for all of eternity because it's Bob's fault. Right. It's like, come on, really? Right. Ridiculous.
The great throne room, right, where we stand naked and alone before the Father. We don't get to point a finger to those that could have shared the gospel with us. Right. It's very clear that it's us and him. Yeah. It's a dual shared responsibility. God the Father takes responsibility over all of his creation. But because of free will, there's also the responsibility of man. The sovereignty of God and the responsibility of man.
Okay. So you're one of those Arminius kind of guys?
No, not necessarily.
You in the middle? Are you in the middle or are you... I'm in the middle, so I talk to people on both sides of the fence. Yeah. I think each side presents some true aspects.
Yeah, I just can't 100% know. I think that we can all search for scriptures that support either one of the cases. Yeah. Right. But I don't 100% know. Okay. And I would tell someone that they have free will and that they are responsible. Right. That's what I would tell them. Yeah. And I would say that God is sovereign. Yes. Now, how those two interact, I don't know. Right.
Well, see, I have no problem with the sovereignty of God.
Absolutely.
That's not an issue. But a lot of the people on the more the Calvinist side of the fence would say sovereignty means he's controlling and determining everything.
Oh, yeah.
No, I could be like, no, sovereignty just means I believe he's in control of all things. But that also means that he, if he desires, has the ability to give his creation free will. Yes. And he can allow them to make decisions and choices within that. Yes. He can also stop them from making a choice or decision whenever he wants. Yes. Right? Which is why sometimes the guy gets to the school, shoots it up. Other times he dies in a car crash on his way to the school and he doesn't get there. Yes. And we're all going, what in the world? Like, what's that? Well, God knows. God knows. That's the only answer I can give to that. Right. God knows. I don't know.
Pastor Greg Nelson. You familiar with him?
Oh, I love that guy.
He broke it down one time that I just really enjoyed. Yeah. I don't know why I haven't heard it before. But what if you knew which horse was going to win the race? Right. You know, would you go and bet on the losing horse? Right. God knows who's going to win.
Right.
Who's going across the finish line believing in Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and life?
Right.
Why would he bet on anyone else?
Yeah.
Like, he bets on them. He calls them who are going to win the race.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's really, I think, that's the main key element in the Calvinist Arminianist debate is the idea that God's outside of time.
Oh, right.
Right? And he knows all things. Right? Everything to him is right in front of him.
Yes.
He knows all of our decisions, everything we're going to do, every choice we're going to make. He knows all that already. So someone says, well, what if he causes things to happen over here based on your free will decision? Okay. That's why I say he's sovereign. He can do whatever he wants.
Yes.
Well, he's forcing you. No, he's not. Not necessarily. I mean,
no.
I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun topic, but I don't think that's one that anybody's ever really going to get to the bottom of, because it's like, I have a really close friend who's a Calvinist, and we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
But he's funny about it. He's one of the most laid back, because usually Calvinists I talk to, they're very intense.
Yes.
They're very like, if you're not a Calvinist, you're not saved. The kind of that kind of attitude, like a James White kind of attitude. And it's like, dude, come on, really? Like, but he's very open to talking about stuff, and he's brought up scriptures that are like, you know what, dude, I don't know how to answer that one.
Okay.
I do not have an answer for that. That verse right there sounds very much determinist, very Calvinistic. But then I'll bring up other verses, like, what about this one? And he'll be like, ooh,
see what I mean?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's other ones that are common, like predestinated, where there are answers to that. When people say, "Oh no, right there it says that we're predestinated for heaven," I said, "Well, first of all, it doesn't say heaven. It says you're predestinated to be without blemish, sanctified, with all these things, right? All these things that go with being saved, right? It doesn't say they're predestined to be saved. It says that if you get saved, these are predestined. These things are going to be attached to you.
Right.
You are now a child of God. That's part of being saved,
yes.
right?" So that's a big difference. That's a
huge difference.
It's a huge difference, right? Because if it flat out said, you have been predestined to be a child of God,
right,
or to be saved, to receive eternal salvation,
right,
there'd be no argument.
Yeah.
There would be no Calvinistic, Arminianist argument. Anybody who was not a Calvinist at that point would be like, you're wrong.
Right. the Olympian doesn't get the gold medal first.
Right.
And then the race.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So back to when I started talking about biblical inerrancy. What would be your defense of that viewpoint? Because there'd be other Christians that might say to you, "Yeah, I believe some of the Bible, but some of it's too old school, too old hat." This idea of like no sex before marriage, this idea of homosexuality, a lifestyle of homosexuality being sinful. All this stuff, it just seems to be so outdated based on our world today. So how can you be so sure that the Bible is all true and inerrant? Now, that's two different questions. Let's just go with all true.
Yeah. I would ask them to remember the very reason why they picked up the Bible in the first place, and that would be that they had questions.
Okay.
And that they should not stop having questions of the Bible. And if you don't believe it to be true, wonderful.
Right.
But don't stop there. Don't stop based on your own opinion and your own ideas of what truth looks like based on today's society and standards. And when you go into the text, arguably, and hopefully you're already there because you're beginning to pick apart Scripture on what is true and not, hopefully you understand that God is good, right? And Jesus is God.
Right.
And if you hold that as the litmus test for every verse and every passage in which you read, then it becomes palatable. It becomes something that you can, okay, I don't fully understand this because it is written to a culture that is not American.
Right.
But I have to ask more questions.
Yeah.
And I have to ensure that I look at the Scripture through the lens of God is good instead of trying to look to the Scripture and determine if God is good. If you do that, then you're gonna have a tough time when you get to the point where cities are annihilated and commands of circumcision. And,
right. Right. Yeah. Okay. So, as you, where am I going to go with that? As you read it, and so what you're saying is, as those questions come up, because there's always going to be questions, right? Like continue questions, and you just keep plowing through, and for you as a Christian, as a believer, as you plow through, you continue to see that the Bible's trustworthy?
Yes.
Okay. So like in what way? Like you might have a question, there's something that seems like something off, but then the more that you dig into that, the clarity comes, and you're like, oh no, I was wrong in my view of this. This makes more sense. Like, in other words, like trying to throw stones at the Bible and try to poke holes in the Bible. Every time you do so, you come up empty, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Something not as foundational, but let's go back to creation. We talked about the 6,000-year-old Earth, new Earth versus old Earth. Was it created day by day in a given week or not? And I come into it loving science.
Right.
I came into the text like billions of years old.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And you're saying what? How is this even possible? Yeah. This doesn't line up. What about carbon dating? What about this? What about that?
Right.
And I had to ask more questions. I said, okay, if the Bible says that this is how the world was made, the universe was made, and I want it to be, I want it to be true. I'm hoping that God is real, Jesus is real, and that this is true, because I don't want to find any lies in this text, or else I got to throw it all in the trash. That then what about carbon dating? What about soil runoff? What about how's sodium deposits in a given area? Like all these measuring scales that exist on the Earth to determine how old the Earth is, and I begin to discover that it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And the only thing that gets to that billion age mark is possibly carbon dating. Right. But there's an issue with carbon dating in that it's only measurable for as long as I live. Right? I can measure a bunch of items, but I can only measure it, the decay, that exponential decay, for a period of time as I live, or I pass my information on to the next person. We don't recognize whether or not that decay is exponential or not. We don't know what happens if I increase the amount of pressure on that particular item with water and layers of rock that existed because of the flood pushing down the item, if that affected the carbon dating system at all. And there's just so many variables that I find that with all of these unknowns in science, and the Bible says it to be a certain way, then I'm going to default to that which has been previously proven to be true through Jesus and the text and history. If history is true here, then why would I call it a liar here? Because over here, we don't know. I'm telling you, no matter what measuring system that you use in science, we don't know. It's a theory, and it's a hope that our calculations are correct, but if they don't line up. Yeah.
But you can't be talking about science because Christians don't believe in science.
Why not?
Well, that's what they tell me. They tell me Christians don't believe in science.
I believe
Christians
in
just believe in blind faith. There's no scientific proof of anything for Christians. They just believe in the magical man in the sky and just no evidence at all. They just go for it.
I think science and mathematics are a beautiful fingerprint.
It's almost like God created both those things.
Yes,
you'd almost think.
I do think.
I mean, they don't realize when they level those attacks on us like that. That things like science, mathematics, dude. I mean, those are all evidences of an intelligent God. Right? I mean, like it doesn't. It has to be. There's no random chance is not going to create a mathematical system like that. There's no way. There has to be an intelligence involved, and a much higher intelligence than we're even capable of. Which is why something like math, even you're in science, you're constantly learning new things. Why? Because God made it vast. Why did He make it vast? Because He's awesome, first of all, and secondly, because it keeps people like me and you interested. And we're going, oh man, these new discoveries is so cool. We're learning new stuff, and like you can get to the end of your life and still not know everything because otherwise it's boring. Like I don't want to get to the point where I know everything. Boring. At that point, I just be like, all right, I'm done. Send me out of here. There's nothing left to do, nothing left to learn. Forget it. Craziness. Okay, so lastly, for the sake of time, You mentioned a minute ago that you're hoping this is real. You're hoping God is real. And I'm assuming you mean you're hoping Christianity is true, right? That's kind of a hope. Mm-hmm. Why? Why aren't you hoping like Islam is real? Why aren't you hoping that like atheism is true? Like, why wouldn't you hope in something like that? If atheism was true from a fleshly standpoint, do whatever you want, man.
True.
You can be accountable to nobody. Mm-hmm. You live your life for you, man. YOLO.
Right. How true, right?
Yeah. So why hope? Why would you hope Christianity is true? Why? Why?
Seeing the fruit of atheism, it's, as the scripture describes, as havel.
Yeah.
Worthless.
Yeah.
What's the point of it? Why even pursue science? Right. Why even pursue any sort of knowledge and intellect if we're all just worm food?
Yeah.
Let's just consume, sit around, be merry. But what extent?
Yeah.
Is that the depth of life? That I don't want that. I don't hope for that.
Okay.
I hope for something far deeper than existence to the point of death.
Okay.
And as I hope for something bigger, like I said, in my pursuits, it pointed to Jesus, and discovering that Jesus was the perfect man, I wanted him also to be the perfect God.
Okay.
And I wanted the scripture to be true because it allowed me to have hope beyond just existence, but interacting with others in the point of encouragement and edification as we are empowered to hold on to the future hope of glory, like something beyond the spirit. And I think that in us, if we really reflected, there's more than just physical.
Right.
We have dreams, we have thoughts, we
Yeah.
have hopes, we have an imagination.
Mm-hmm.
I can fail to see that if a slug has such a thing,
Right.
or
Right.
any other. Man, we see dogs move around in their dreams, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something more for us,
Sure.
than anything else.
Yeah, but at that I agree with you. But why is Christianity the only hope for something like that?
True.
Like, why specifically that one? Because you look at Christianity offers, obviously a life walking with the Lord on earth, and then eternity in heaven,
Right.
with God, worshiping Him for all eternity.
True.
Mormonism offers, having your own planet with the hot women all around you, and you're the only guy, and you get to populate the planet. Jehovah's Witnesses offers these levels of heaven. There's all these different things, right? So, I mean, why would you hope for the one over the other?
Having looked at and observed and picked apart the text, and as you've already broken it down, so I won't exhaust that list again. But it's all self-serving still. In the other faiths, a planet I'm hoping for, a crown, a virgins, nirvana. It's all self.
Right.
And to what purpose? If I'm just existing now, you're telling me that it would be to the point of just simply existence for eternity, to enjoy pleasures?
Yeah.
I can enjoy pleasures now, and I find that it's havel. You want me to have havel for eternity? And so I want a God who is God and who deserves to be worshipped and adored and to have my attention. And he promises that. Jesus promises that. He gives us eternity. And he not only just gives us the eternity to be in existence, but he gives us an eternity to be in his presence and to work.
Yeah.
We're going to be in heaven working and fellowshipping with him and being with him and empowered by him to do something greater than ourselves for all eternity.
Right.
And I don't want to live a life of havel for eternity, as the other faiths offer.
Nice.
I want to live a life in fellowship with the Father, creating and building something new and enjoyable. And,
Nice.
and in that creation, its very purpose is to worship God.
Right.
And is also for my good and the good of whoever else's brothers and sisters up there.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Good answer, dude. I like that one. That's a good answer. I like that. All right, we're at the end, dude.
The end?
That's it, man. We
Wow.
made it. You did it.
All right. All right. Made it through.
You got anything else you want to add, or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, dude.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. It's good stuff.
it's always cool to like get to know somebody that I've known but not known, you know?
Yeah,
So.
I want to re-interview though, and I want you to answer the rest of the questions too.
Thanks again for checking out this podcast, and please tell all of your friends about it. Don't let those shadow banning savages win the battle. Also, I would love to hear your feedback. You can contact me at whycan'twetalkaboutThat at proton.me. Make sure that you subscribe so that you'll be notified whenever new episodes are released. Thanks.